Good evening. I would like to welcome everybody to the Fayette County Board of Education regular meeting on December 16th, 2019. The time is 6:01 p.m. and we are excited that you are here tonight on this rainy, cold evening. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Daly to take roll call.
Mr. Raymond Daniels.
Present.
Mr. Darrell Love.
Present.
Ms. Christy Morris.
Present.
Mr. Tyler Murphy.
Present.
Ms. Stephanie Spires.
Present. Well, again, I'd like to welcome all of our guests in the audience this evening and our guest performers. And I'd also like to take a minute and welcome our guest board members. So each month, we have 3 honorary board members, a classified, a student, and a teacher representative. And we encourage them to participate in the conversations and engage and talk with us. And so I'm going to take a moment and introduce them. Serena Sandusky is a native of Lexington, Kentucky, and a proud graduate of Bryan Station High School, class of 2013. She graduated from Bellarmine in May of 2017, cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in sociology and minoring in criminal justice studies. She was honored with various academic achievement awards. The most notable was receiving the Faculty Merit Award in criminal justice studies. In the fall of 2017, she joined the FCPS family as a paraeducator and assistant girls basketball coach at Frederick Douglass High School. In 2018, she became a part of FCPS Police Department. Since then, she has completed the 20-week police academy and a 10-week field training officer program and is currently assigned to Bryan Station High School as an officer. In her spare time, she enjoys coaching basketball, traveling, playing guitar, and crafting. And we welcome her. Come back to our student. Catherine Sawyers is a 4th grade teacher at Athens Childsburg Elementary School. She has been a teacher for 17 years and has proudly served in Fayette County for 15 of those years. She earned her bachelor's in elementary education, her master's degree in educational leadership from the University of Kentucky. She believes in each and every one of her students and strives to help them imagine and reach their greatest potential. She is married to Christopher Sawyers, principal of the Learning Center, and is the mother of son Jack and daughter Ryan. On the slight chance that she has free time, she enjoys baking and making jewelry. And we want to welcome. And then our student representative, who is not here at the moment, and this happens sometimes because our students are so involved, but Abigail Meadows is a junior in high school at Tates Creek and also at Southside Technical Center. She has attended Southside since the 8th grade and has demonstrated leadership capacity from the first day she scurried across the threshold of their entrance. She has been enrolled in pre-engineering, advanced manufacturing, and is now in her 2nd year of welding. Abby is also in her 3rd year of being a member of our Skills USA student organization, where she represents our schools as the president. She is currently an officer for Skills USA Kentucky, and has a big announcement upcoming regarding the National Skills USA organization that's still a secret. In her spare time, she enjoys the culinary arts field and baking, as she is always bringing in sweet treats and trying to expand Mr. Morris's belly.
All right.
At this time, I'd like to ask Vice Chair Daniels to do the moment of silence, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the reading of our mission statement.
Thank you.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our mission is to create a collaborative community that ensures all students achieve at high levels and graduate prepared to excel in a global society.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask if there are any changes or amendments to the agenda, or if we can make a motion to approve the agenda of tonight's meeting.
Yes, Madam Chair. If I would just request that we pull RFP 63-19 from the consent agenda.
Can you tell us what page?
Yes, that is 24. And with that change, I would move to adopt the agenda.
All right, Mr. Murphy has made a motion to approve the agenda with the just change of moving RFP 6319 to the action items from the consent, correct?
That's correct.
Do I have a second?
I'll make that second.
All right, Ms. Morris makes the second. Is there any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
Oppose.
Oppose.
Opposed. Motion does not carry. The vote is 2 yea, 3 nay. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented for tonight's meeting.
So move to approve agenda as indicated for tonight's meeting.
Second.
So I have a motion by Mr. Daniels, a second by Mr. Love. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
All right, so the motion carries 3 yeas, 2 noes. All right, and at this time, I will move on to introduce the student performance this evening. We like to begin each school board meeting with a performance to showcase our talented students in high-quality arts instruction. This evening, students from our School for the Creative and Performing Arts at Bluegrass will share some songs from the recent Opera House production of Madagascar Jr., including Best Friend Together Forever and I Like to Move It, Move It. Please join me in welcoming these SCAPA students to the stage.
Ain't nothing in the world that could tear us apart.
Aw, don't do
You're
that.
my friend. Ain't nothing in the universe that could come in between us. If you're in a rut, I will pick you up and bring you back to who you are. Yeah, come on, Marty. Anything that you need, I'm here for ya. Wherever I need to be, I'm there for ya. Unconditional, even if it ain't cool. I'm there when you need me. Need a shoulder to cry on, it's here for ya. Need a friend to rely on, I'm there for ya. Unconditional, I know you're my buddy, and you're my bestest friend. Anything that you need, I'm here for ya. Wherever I need to be, I'm there for ya. Unconditional, I know you're my buddy, and you're my bestest friend. Yeah, you're my bestest friend. I know you're my bestest friend.
Together forever, together forever, together forever, yeah.
I got my toes sticking in the sand. Even the penguins are getting tanned.
And once again, life is a party.
For Gloria, Melman, me, and Marty.
Hanging with our friends doesn't get any better. We know we're gonna be together forever.
So, what's for lunch?
Relax, folks. We've got a plan.
Sushi?
Open that hatch.
Sushi's better than steak.
That kitty loves the fishy.
Yay! Okay, let's get back to New York.
Are you sure, Marty? I mean, being here is your dream.
I don't care where we are, as long as we're all together. Oh, if we never forget all of the things that we said, the good times we had, remember the laughter each day, then we'll stay together forever, living in the memories of you and me. Together forever, over any land and across the sea. No matter where we are, look up at the stars, we're never very far. We're always gonna be together forever, together we will stay. Together forever, living in the memories of you and me. Together forever, over any land and across the sea. No matter where we are, look up at the stars, we're never very far. We're always gonna be together forever, together we will do. Together forever, together. Together forever, together. Together forever, together. Together we will be. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. We like to move it. I like to move and move it. She like to move and move it. He like to move and move it. We like to move it. I like to move and move it. She like to move and move it. He like to move and move it. We like to move it.
Here in Madagascar, we get funky, we get loud. So do it. There's nothing to it.
Even the lemurs and Maurice can babaloo it. They take it low, low. They take it high, high. It feels so good you can't deny. Let's prove it. Move it. Everybody up, everybody jump. Everybody bump, everybody in the room. Everybody up, everybody jump. Everybody bump, everybody in the room. Everybody up, everybody jump. Everybody bump, everybody in the room. Everybody up, everybody jump. Everybody bump, everybody in the room. I like it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. We like to move it, move it. We like to move it. I like to move it, move it. She likes to move it, move it. He likes to move it, move it. We like to move it. Hello, everybody all over the world. Original King Julian on your case, man. I like to move it, move it. She likes to move it, move it. He likes to move it, move it. We like to move it. I like to move it, move it. She likes to move it, move it. He likes to move it, move it. We like to move it.
Do we have any family members of these talented artists? If you're in the audience, we ask that you stand so that we can thank you for supporting your student. And I think Mr. Koch and I both got an opportunity to see Madagascar Jr. And I will say I took my kids and a bunch of their friends and we had a whole row and they were all moving it in that part of the show. So it was a great performance. And
great performance. The students, the cast, the director, Principal Randolph, and the families, and our community came out to support our students during that musical. Was fantastic. So thank you, students, and thank you, families.
so be sure to reserve your seat for SCAPA's next fantastic musical performance, Hello, Dolly, coming in April. And on that note, I'd like to ask my colleagues to meet me down front. Middle school football. The varsity football squad from Edith J. Hayes Middle School shut out Crawford 39-0 for the county's 2019 championship. And the B team from Hayes blanked Bryan Station Middle 36-0 for the JV title. In the varsity's final game, the Panthers' Jamarion Brown rushed for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. Lee Locke totaled 77 yards and 2 scores, and Caden Clay added 42 yards on the ground. Among the JV highlights, Avion, Chenault, and Junior Harris handled all of the scoring. The B team's defense also dominated, led by Lovell Martin III, with 3 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and a blocked punt. These football teams are coached by Nicholas Payne, Jason Pack, Brent Busson, Steve Rayleigh, Ron Mack, and Wayne Bragg. Please join the board in congratulating Hayes on an outstanding season. Come on up. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah. Congratulations. 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 Thank you and congratulations. All right, you guys can stand here. We're going to take a group photo. I have been informed that basketball tryouts are this evening, which is why some of the team did not show, but we are so excited for those who are here. And I ask that if there are any family members of these athletes, if you could stand for a moment so we can recognize you for supporting your student. PE Teacher of the Year. LaDonna Porter of Beaumont is the 2019 Southern District Middle School Physical Education Teacher of the Year. She's representing Shape America members from 13 states, and in late April will compete for the 2020 National Honors at the Salt Lake City Convention. LaDonna has taught at Beaumont for 13 years. She recently served as Vice President for PE of the Kentucky Society for Health and Physical Education. She is now a member at large East. She is also the liaison for the state wellness program and promotes wellness activities at Beaumont, such as the school's annual biometric screening. Outside the classroom at Beaumont, LaDonna serves as a trainer for the Where Everybody Belongs mentoring program. As the school's athletic director, volleyball coach, and girls track and field coach, she is also the middle school's content specialist for Fayette County Public Schools. Please join the board in congratulating LaDonna. Come on up. If we have any family members, friends, or colleagues here in the audience, we ask that you stand so we can congratulate you or thank you for supporting your educator. Award of Merit for Teaching. Anna Sullinger of Beaumont Middle School has received the 2019 Award of Merit from the National Association Teachers of Family and Consumer Science. She was the Kentucky State nominee in July and then chosen as this year's national award recipient. A native of Maysville, Anna has earned a bachelor's degree in Family and Consumer Sciences education from the University of Kentucky, a master's in secondary education from Eastern Kentucky University, and her rank 1 in career and technical education from UK. She joined FCPS in January of 2015. Previously, she taught for more than 8 years at the Grant County Career and Technology Center. Please join the board in saluting Anna for her national honor. If we have any family, friends, colleagues who are here tonight supporting her, we'd like to ask that you stand so that we can thank you for supporting. And I don't mean that lightly, because we know that it takes so much sacrifice from your family and your friends, and we know, I just want to say, I'm thankful for all of you educators for everything that you all do for your students and for our schools, and so thank you. And we thank the families for all the sacrifices that we know that they make as well. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Ms. Lisa.
Good evening. At 211 degrees, water is hot, but at 212 degrees, it boils. The difference is just 1 degree, but it is significant. Boiling water creates steam, and that steam has the energy to power a freight train. Reaching our mission of creating a collaborative community that ensures all students achieve at high levels and graduate prepared to excel in a global society requires an extra degree of effort from all of our employees. Each and every day, we have countless staff members who go above and beyond in the service of students. We honor some of those efforts with a 212-degree recognition during our monthly school board meetings. Tonight's 212-degree recognition is for one of our Fayette County Public Schools police officers who understands that his oath to protect and serve extends beyond the limits of our school campuses. One morning this fall, Sergeant Brandon Blair was returning to Bryan Station High School when he happened upon a multi-car accident at the intersection of New Circle and Bryan Station Road. Although he did not see the impact due to a semi-tractor trailer blocking his view, he heard the crash and observed a cloud of dirt and debris. Sergeant Blair exited his vehicle and ran to investigate. At the scene, he found a vehicle that had been struck from behind at a high rate of speed, which caused a baby in the back seat to be ejected onto the front passenger side floor under the dashboard. While Sergeant Blair was rendering first aid to the baby, an off-duty Lexington police officer came to assist by checking on the driver of the other vehicle, which had struck several cars before coming to rest in the parking lot of a nearby used car lot. That driver appeared to be unconscious and trapped inside the vehicle. The Lexington police officer asked for Sergeant Blair's baton in order to break the window. However, the baton strikes were not successful. Another bystander emerged from the growing crowd with a sledgehammer, and they used that to break out the side glass. After confirming that the driver in the vehicle was not breathing and needed immediate medical attention, Sergeant Blair and the other officer attempted unsuccessfully to remove him to render first aid before placing the car in neutral and pushing it to a more accessible location. Another bystander assisted Sergeant Blair as they pulled the driver out and laid him on the ground to begin CPR. Sergeant Blair and another concerned citizen began alternating chest compressions and rescue breaths. The injured driver began to show signs of life as a result of their swift effort, so they stopped briefly. However, the driver's condition worsened without CPR, and they immediately resumed those chest compressions and rescue breaths until emergency care responders arrived and assumed care for the injured. The quick and skillful actions of Sergeant Blair and others that day were instrumental in saving the lives of those involved in this accident. Sergeant Blair's leadership in that stressful situation was crucial as he directed others to assist with little regard for his own safety. By rendering aid to multiple injured victims in a very congested intersection, Sergeant Blair helped save lives. Please join me in extending a heartfelt thank you to Sergeant Blair for going above and beyond in the service of our children and our community.
this time, I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent Kalk.
All right.
We have proclamation.
I think it's proclamations.
Oh, we do have proclamations. Sorry, they were backwards in that book. All right. So next on the agenda, we have proclamations honoring the men and women who keep our buildings running smoothly. Mr. Murphy.
Our proclamation tonight celebrates January 13th through the 17th, 2020 as National Maintenance Worker Appreciation Week. It is my honor to ask Chief Operating Officer Myron Thompson forward to read the proclamation. And as he reads, anyone who works in our maintenance team, please stand so that they may be recognized.
Whereas maintaining safe and functioning facilities and resources for learning is instrumental for the success of our students, staff, and community in the Fayette County Public Schools. And whereas Fayette County Public Schools maintenance staff is responsible for the maintaining and repairing of 6,118,818 square feet of facilities throughout the district. And whereas the ask of our maintenance staff requires individuals with different skill sets, including electricians, plumbers, electronic technicians, locksmiths, roofers, masons, glaziers, carpenters, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning technicians working together to provide our students a safe, sanitary, and comfortable learning environment. And whereas FCPS counts on its maintenance staff to keep our schools operating efficiently every day of the year, as evidenced by the more than 16,400 work orders completed each year. And whereas, whether they are maintaining electrical power and electronic equipment, keeping our buildings cool in the summer and warm in the winter, working so that our plumbing flows and making sure that our doors and locks are secure, the FCPS school maintenance staff truly do it all.
Now therefore be it proclaimed that the members of the Fayette County Board of Education hereby express our deep appreciation to maintenance workers as integral members of the school district team, and hereby join the rest of the nation in celebrating January 13th to the 17th, 2020 as National Maintenance Worker Appreciation Week. Be it further proclaimed that this proclamation be spread on the official minutes of the Board of Education.
A motion is in order to adopt the proclamation celebrating January 13th through 17th, 2020 as National Maintenance Worker Appreciation Week.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the proclamation celebrating January the 13th through the 17th, 2019 as National Maintenance Worker Appreciation Week.
Second.
The motion is by Mr. Love, a second by Mr. Daniels. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you all.
Yes, yeah.
At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Superintendent Kalk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we begin the Superintendent's Report tonight, I'd like to personally welcome our student, teacher, and classified representatives this evening. Catherine, Abigail, and Serena, you represent important voices here at the table, and we encourage you to share your thoughts and observations so that the actions taken here will be the best they possibly can be. First, under Superintendent's Report, our Catalyze Equity, we're going to move that to the board action meeting in January. And so we're going to begin with a presentation of the Comprehensive School Improvement Plan, or turnaround plan, from Principal Jones at William Wells Brown and his team. And Faith, our school chief, have you come forward. And you can bring your team, big guy. You can bring your team, come forward. As you know, the board, based on the comprehensive support and improvement status of the school, will be asked to approve the comprehensive school improvement plan. The other 6 schools, based on their status, the superintendent will approve those. All right.
All right,
Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. We want to thank you all for allowing us to be here and to take a few moments of your time to go over both the school improvement plan and the school's turnaround plan. I'm Faith Thompson. I'm the chief of schools for William Wells Brown, and with me you have Principal J. Jones Jr. And also Ms. Amanda Stewart, who is also our MTSS coordinator. And so without further ado, we'll go ahead and get right into the plan and the PowerPoint. Each of you all should have a copy of both the PowerPoint and the actual CSIP and turnaround plan. You will notice that it's a little bit new in the sense that what we've done is collapsed the document into one. Historically, that's been 2 documents presented before you. After having a couple of technical assistance sessions with KDE, we have now made that a collapsed document with the CSIP. So.
All right, thank you all for having me here tonight. I always love the opportunity to talk about the wonderful things going on at William Mills Brown. The days up into that are a little nerve-wracking, but once I'm here, I'm good. So, appreciate it. Like Faith said, our CSIP and turnaround plan are essentially the same document, and as I go through the presentation, you'll see that they're really one and the same. The goals and objectives of each are closely aligned, so it's essentially the same plan. And during the presentation, I'll show how the two are really tied together and also show the systems, processes, and monitoring we have in place that are anchoring the work. So this next slide, I know you can't read it, but this is just to kind of show you the process of the work. So in year one, of course, when we were identified as CSI last year, we had an audit by Cambridge Education, and that started in January through February of the spring. And so this is kind of the process. What we did was identify 3 big objectives, which were rigorous instruction, leadership accountability, and learning culture and mindset. And after we developed that plan, we didn't want to wait until the fall to get that going. We wanted to implement right away because we knew we had some strong components and wanted to go ahead and get that work going. So on this slide here, you'll see there's yellow and green where we're just marking what we've done, what we've gotten started with, and what we need to follow up with. So I just want to kind of show you the journey to get to where we are today.
And I will point out that in year one's turnaround plan, it was heavy laden with high yield strategies, right, with strategies. And so as Mr. Jones has noted, this year plan includes those strategies, but is heavy laden with processes, structures, and procedures.
So fast forward to fall 2019.
Ms. Thompson, would you mind going back? Because for people who are like listening, what are high yield strategies?
So high yield strategies are those strategies, they are research-based strategies, and we can pull those researchers, whether it's Marzano's or Hattie's visible learning, and what they determine is based upon whatever strategies you use, like direct instruction or collaboration. It shows a size effect for actual improving student outcomes. So what we're trying to do is use those high yield strategies and evidence-based strategies, I should say, that have a greater size effect than 4, so that we can ensure that we really get our students rooted in moving in the instructional core.
Thank you. So as I was saying, fast forward to fall 2019, when we got our KPEP report, we had CSI status again. But when we looked at that KPEP data, that was just a starting point for moving forward. Sherry Heisey came out and walked us through a data disaggregation process, which was really eye-opening. And I'm not just speaking for myself, but a lot of principals, when we get that KPEP data, we don't always feel like it's the most useful for day-to-day instruction, but Sherry led us through a process where we looked at that piece first and then went to other pieces of data we had in the building to look for trends as we were making those plans. So that process, step by step, really helped us develop the goals in the CSIP. So we essentially did a needs assessment. So on this slide here, you'll see the percentage of proficient and distinguished in each content area on the test and our identified gap group. And that group is African American. At first, I wasn't going to focus on African American students because that is the majority of my students, but we knew if we targeted that group, it would hit all of the other subgroups as well. So those high impact strategies we use for those kids, everyone's going to benefit from them. So even though it's a large percentage of the population, that's our gap group. And so we have an overarching statement. William Mills Brown will develop and implement effective systems for growth in the areas of rigorous instruction, leadership accountability, and school culture and mindset, using multiple data sources, KPREP, MAP, formative and summative assessments, PBIS reports, student work samples, class observations. William Mills Brown will use a continuous improvement model to evaluate and improve in these areas. So I know that was a mouthful, but again, that just speaks to us making sure we have good systems in place to monitor the work. So this slide here just kind of shows you the connection of the CSIP goals and the turnaround plan. So for each area of the CSIP, we aligned it to something we had already established as a priority in the turnaround plan. So for proficiency and the separate academic indicator for CSIP, those are tied to rigorous instruction. For our achievement gap group, that's tied to rigorous instruction and leadership accountability and school culture and mindset. And then growth, we tied specifically to leadership accountability, making sure we have systems in place to make sure our students are making progress and monitoring that progress along the way. So the next slide actually has the CSIP goals, and you'll see that for each of those goals, proficiency, separate academic indicator, achievement gap, and growth, we have the connected turnaround plan goal as well, again, making them one guiding document. So for proficiency, again, rigorous instruction, separate academic, rigorous instruction, achievement gap, learning culture and mindset, and growth is leadership accountability. And for achievement gap, that objective is learning culture and mindset. When we talk about culture, it's not just, well, what I'm saying is we want a culture of learning and high expectations with the students learning in a safe and civil environment. So having a strong PBIS system and a continuum of consequences and interventions to support those struggling students is going to help all students be successful. So we want to keep students in instruction as much as possible. Again, here, during the turnaround process with Cambridge, it was a really comprehensive process. It wasn't just talking to the staff and the leadership team. They spoke to parent community partners, certified and classified staff, students. They did parent focus groups. They also looked at all of our data, academic and behavior. Also did on-site classroom and PLC observations just to really submerge themselves in the work we're doing at the school day to day. And through that, we reestablished our mission statement, core values, and theory of action. The mission is now, the mission of William Mills Brown is to educate all students to academic proficiency while developing their ability to think critically and persevere. A lot of that language actually came from the parent focus group, which was really key in this process. Cambridge does a really good job of including everyone in the process. It was not just what do the teachers think, what does the principal think. They did a student voice session, which was fun, but also enlightening. Kids are very honest, as you know. So we were able to get input from all of those groups as we developed these. And our core values, we decided as a team to go with the core values we have for our students to be respectful, responsible, and safe. And then our theory of action is our if-then statement. If we increase the rigor in instruction, elevate leadership and staff accountability, and improve school culture and mindset, then we can expect an increase in student achievement in all areas. So that speaks to not just academic achievement, but also the learning culture, like I said, having a safe, learning, and positive environment for our kids day to day.
And again, you see the three objectives
Yeah,
there. I just want to point out the process, system, structures, and strategy. So that's very key at the top.
So the next several slides are some pictures of the work we're doing day to day, and at the bottom of each one, you'll see the CSIP goal and the turnaround objective, again, that it is connected to. Again, I want to make sure all of this work is streamlined, connected, so we don't feel like we're looking at two different processes. It's one process. So for proficiency, we have some pictures here for small group differentiation, standards deconstruction, and standards deconstruction specifically, we use the model that Cambridge modeled for us, and so we take each standard that we're going to teach and we break it down into the key vocabulary, what the kids need to know and be able to do by the end of it. And we go ahead and develop the student-friendly language targets, learning targets, and after that, then we start developing the lessons, making sure there's a common understanding of that standard before we even get to the lesson planning process. So we started off doing that as a leadership team, modeling that for the teachers, and now they're doing it on their own. So as the weeks progress, we're collecting these big charts of deconstructed standards that we can go back and refer to and also tweak if necessary. A lot of the standards, when you go back and read them again, you'll take a little something else from it. So those are living, breathing documents that can be adjusted throughout the year. So each one of these is also tied to a key core work process. We wanted to make sure we included KDE school improvement language in everything we're doing. And so this one is design, deploy standards, and deliver instruction. So with that, we're doing a lot of teacher clarity work with success criteria. Enrichment is part of our instructional core. We're doing TNTP work, making sure we have standards-based grade level instruction going on day to day. The Promise Academy implementation, strong PLCs, differentiation, project-based learning, higher order questions. We have a very rigorous lesson plan template that has every component you could think of for lesson plans that the teachers have to complete. And we do live feedback on the lesson plans each week. So it used to be that they submitted to the Google Drive, and on Google you can give feedback and they can type back, but we found it more effective for us to actually have those conversations with the teacher during the PLC, and that way we can ask questions, have some back and forth, and really come to a consensus on what that strong lesson plan should look like. So a lot of work going on there. The next slide is specifically about the Promise Academy implementation and the enrichment opportunities. Enrichment is all about access and opportunity. That's one of the main components of the Promise Academy model that we've really embraced. Here we have some pictures of our hip hop class. Mr. Divine Karama comes and does that with our fifth grade boys. We have a drumming group, chess going on, and we have a really strong partnership with Locust Trace. We're doing a grade level K through 5 focus with equine studies to touch into neighborhood history. So last week they brought out some miniature ponies for the students, and actually Wednesday our fifth graders are going out to Locust Trace to experience that, what's going on out there. So they've been a great partner, and they see a different grade level every Thursday of the week.
And I just would like to reiterate that the Promise Academy is about the issue of equity, to remove those barriers, to ensure that, and I talked about this with you, Christy, this morning, a school across town may have 90 minutes of ELA instruction, but at William Wells Brown, we wanted to ensure that that 90 minutes is equivalent, even if that means there must be 120 minutes because of some other issues and things that we need to maybe deal with, or barriers that we may need to remove. So we wanted to ensure that issue of equity is brought out through the Promise Academy.
So the next slide's more enrichment. We have Urban Ninja Project working with the kids right now, and salsa dancing. Our Spanish teacher and Mr. Leo from the Equity Office, he's coming over, working really closely with the Spanish teacher and really with all of the students K through 5. And so as you can see, Mr. Leo can salsa quite well, and taught me some moves as well. So he's doing a great job. And I wanted to just speak real briefly about access and opportunity. Just a little story for you. And I shared this at Leadership, I think, a couple years ago. I grew up playing the violin, and I had a teacher who saw a talent in me, and so one summer she bought me a bus pass to get on the city bus to get to her house over the summer for lessons, because my parents weren't able to get me there. And it was just a bus pass. I know she didn't spend a lot of money on it, but I was like 11 or 12 getting on the LexTrans for the first time alone, having to transfer downtown on Main Street, which was just scary the first time. But that made a big difference in my life. That bus pass led to a music scholarship and becoming a music teacher. And so I know the value of access and opportunity. So I love that about our Promise Academy model, that the kids are getting exposure to things that maybe they wouldn't have the opportunity to outside of school.
And they're getting exposure to it as part of the instructional core,
yes, absolutely.
right? So it's not after school, before school. Just as they're getting ELA and math and science, they're also having experiential opportunities to engage in the enrichment.
So next, one of the favorite groups during enrichment is Code Commanders. We recently just had our 6-week celebration for the first cycle of coding. Each week they have projects they have to complete, and they actually earn real money for the projects they're working on. And so they're teaching them that if you put in the work, that it will pay off for you. So the kids really enjoyed and embraced that experience. And in January, they'll be coming back for another cycle. And I want to give a shout out to the district and Soraya Matthews for arranging that and helping fund that opportunity for our kids. It's been wonderful.
Superintendent called on the board as well.
Yes, all of our enrichment has had additional funding, so we appreciate it. We were able to bring in some partners that we wouldn't have been able to. So it's been great for the kids. CSIP Goal 2 is the separate academic indicator aligned to Turnaround Objective 1, rigorous instruction. So I have a picture here of a science night we do every year, a picture of the writing plan. Rose Santiago and Mr. Leo were very instrumental in developing our writing plan. They created all the materials, the PowerPoints, basically gave them all the resources they would need to have strong writing instruction, and have been out to monitor the implementation of it. So I want to give a shout out to them. And so that's a picture of some of that work. And also have a picture of our Reading Writing Rewards program. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity has been a partner with our schools since before I was there. And this year we kind of streamlined that program to make it very aligned to on-demand writing for 5th grade, which is a tested area. So it used to be that they would read a book and write a summary and earn rewards as they did that, but now my PGIS coach actually trained the volunteers on the on-demand writing format, which is the 5-paragraph essay. So they're working specifically on something that's going to impact their performance on K-Prep. So they're great, and the kids love working with them, and even more so than the instructional part, which is a benefit, that connection they're making with those professionals who come every week has been wonderful, and they're upset when the mentors can't make it. So
What fraternity again was that?
Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So all minds are clear, yes. Okay. The next goal is for growth, tied to leadership accountability. Here I just have some snapshots of that work we're doing. Myself as the principal, making sure that we have those strong processes in place. So we have our TNTP checklist that we created aligned to the TNTP work, our district walkthrough data, the data wall. The data wall is a big snapshot of a child. It has not just their demographics, but also K-Prep map, their guided reading level, just anything you might want to know about the child. So you can go in there and pick up the card and see how that child is doing. We have our standards reteach that we just implemented. That's a picture of me implementing, leading a leadership meeting. I'm slimmer in that picture. I'm slimmer now than I am in that picture. Let's make that clear. That's our leadership team agenda, and there is also a picture of our some district staff leading PD on engagement for the staff. So all of that is creating structures and supports, both academic and behavior, to promote learning for all students, and that also includes our observations and feedback, lesson plan review I talked about, and building our teachers up.
And I'll just talk a little bit about the standards reteach, because we want you all to see the whole of the process. So we're not just deconstructing standards for the sake of deconstructing standards, but we're deconstructing standards. Teachers are implementing those, and when students have demonstrated that they have not mastered those standards, we are coming back based upon what the data is telling us, and we are reteaching those standards. So we are using that PDSA continuous improvement model to shore up the structures and the supports academically and behaviorally.
Principal Jones, let me ask you a quick question while you're there. I'm reading this and I'm just wondering on the plan objective 2, leadership accountability. You spoke so much about that last year, that this was going to be a big part of the implementation. What does build teacher capacity mean? I mean, we're working with capacity with the kids. Explain what build teacher capacity means.
Our goal is for our teachers to be master teachers at the end of the school year. So strategies are being modeled for them. They're being shoulder coached by folks on the leadership team and by folks from Cambridge. We want to make sure they're becoming better instructors in the classroom. So whatever PD, whatever specific training they get from someone on the leadership team, we want them to be the best teachers they can be, because the research says that teacher is the biggest difference. What they do in front of those kids, whole group and small group, that is the biggest determination of whether those kids will be successful. So as we train them up, we know they're going to do a better job at meeting the needs of the kids.
How are we measuring that?
Well, it's a gradual release as well. So we actually just developed a new plan where we've tiered the teachers for the level of support they need. And so based on their data and class observations, and so the level of support and district walkthrough feedback.
It's right there.
It's
Yes.
that graph.
Yeah, it's right there.
As well.
So based on what that teacher needs, we provide support in that area, and the goal is over time, each time we visit in each district walkthrough, that teacher is improving in that area.
So, for example, in that left-hand corner where it says building teacher capacity, and you have Nicole Mitchell, a district specialist, and Katina Brown, CRTL specialist. They're training on differentiation. And so when the walkthrough team or the leadership team goes in, they will use the walkthrough tool, the district walkthrough tool, to capture what it is that they're actually seeing and record that data. Based upon that data, feedback is provided to the faculty and staff, and adjustments are made accordingly.
May I ask, how targeted is the feedback in the walkthroughs? Is the data looked at in the aggregate, or is there specific feedback given to teachers based upon?
Well, it's both. We get overall feedback. When we get there, we split up and we assign everyone a grade level. And also they do pop-in visits throughout the month in between, because we want to make sure we're getting feedback of the entire instructional day, not just the 2-hour visit. And so they'll give us overall feedback for the grade level and overall trends for the building, but also get down to teacher A was strong in this, needs help in this, and then what can we do to address that area. And then as the support team is there, we work with them on what specific support they can each provide to those teachers in their area of need. Before the next visit, yes. We want that to happen before they come back.
Thank you. And on average, how long are one of these classroom visits?
When they pop in, it's usually a 15 to 20-minute visit, but with the visits throughout the month as well, and the leadership team doing their visits throughout the month, we get pretty good feedback and know the trends. We're usually not surprised at the feedback, because the leadership team, we've already identified some needs, and a lot of times it just confirms, and then we're able to identify some additional support we can provide.
That just-in-time support?
Yes. CSIP Goal 3 is our GAP group, which is African American students, tied to learning culture and mindset. Here, just a picture of some of the things we've done in that area. As far as our learning culture, we wanted to make sure our staff are familiar with the neighborhood and the demographics and the needs of the population we serve. So this summer, we did an East End neighborhood tour. Ms. Jill Wilson, who's director of the community center, she's actually grew up in the East End and knows all the ins and outs. So she gave us a tour and stopped us by all the historical spots in the neighborhood. We showed them the little house I lived in for a while on Nelson Street leading up to the school. One of my families lives there now. So we also did a financial literacy course for parents. Just a couple weeks ago, our family community liaison did that. We were able to bring her in maybe a month ago, so we appreciate support with that. We also did home visits. You'll see there Ms. Faith Thompson joined us for home visits this summer. And we opened our FACE Center. And so, yes. Our FACE Center is already equipping parents. We've helped parents find jobs, work on their resume, go to places to develop specific skills needed for jobs, parenting classes, whatever they need. And so our school, as you all know, it being a community school, parents can come in, and if we can't provide it, we can direct them to where they can get it. That's one of the great things about William Wells Brown.
So I have a couple questions. I don't know if this is the right place to interject, but I'm going to interject. So the first thing I want to say is I love that you're all doing the home visits, and I know a lot of schools in our district are doing that, and that is just phenomenal. And I love that you all have brought in the history of the neighborhood, because so many don't recognize how much history is over there, and we've done, as a city, not a great job preserving it. So I think that's awesome that you're telling that story. Two quick questions. One, you talk about providing the families with supports outside, but one of the things I know that full disclosure, I was a parent at the school. So one of the feedbacks I would get from parents is, how do I get involved? Or how do I, parents almost need to be taught how to be involved, so what are we doing that, I know you've been trying to get the PTA up for a few years and trying to do, so is that part of this piece as well with the learning culture and mindset?
Absolutely, and actually our family and community liaison, she's not just in the building waiting for parents to come. She gets out, visits with the family, brings them in. With her previous work experience, she has access to a lot of resources. And we have some parents who there's a bit of a disconnect with home and school, and she is helping bridge that gap along with PTA and family resources.
Principal Jones, I
Yes.
think there may be some confusion. Some folks maybe think you're talking about your family resource person.
Oh, I got you.
Right? We're not talking about that. This is an
Family
additional
liaison.
resource.
Family liaison.
Yes.
Yes,
And where's
family
that person
community. Say that again?
Where's that person from, or of?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Where's that person of? She's of the community.
Yes, she is, and previously works for Cabinet of Workforce Development. And so she just has a lot of resources for the families, and some of our families, speaking to the principal or the teacher is a little intimidating for them. And so she's helping break down those barriers to let them know, yes, you can access the school, yes, you can volunteer, and here's some ways we can do that. And so I've formed a better relationship with some of the parents just through having the FACE Center. They have a place they can go and work on their resume or look for a job or just talk to someone about what's going on in their life and get those barriers to academic success.
And that's new. So
Yeah.
having someone of the community
Absolutely.
that's from the community, understands what's going on in the community, and then having a place for in the school dedicated for families, that's new.
And one of my other quick questions that I think also could kind of be interjected here or on the last goal. As a board, we've talked about the importance of a diverse applicant pool.
Yes.
And we've talked about how, I mean, our objective here is for African-American students. And I know you've had a pretty big turnover transition as we moved from the old to the Promise Academy. So can you tell me kind of maybe some feedback for us on, you know, because we can only help diversify the applicant pool, and then it really comes down. So any insights or thoughts or feedback that you can help us with on that, or, you know,
Like
'cause-
diversifying the applicant pools?
yes, or, you know, did you find, I mean, I think you found really high-quality teachers. I mean, I know teachers were applying from all over the country to be in your school and stuff, but just any feedback kind of in that process, I think would be good for us as the board.
Allow me to lead in before Mr. Jones talks about that, but one strategy that I think was probably of the utmost importance was the fact that Superintendent Kalk opened up that window for the CSI schools so that we could tap into that candidate pool before the entire window for Fayette County was opened up. So that, Stephanie, was like monumental when it came to us selecting our teachers and the diversity pool. Honestly, we probably have the most diverse
I think you
staff in.
did, and so I want to make sure you still
We
do. That's kind of where I was.
Greater degree, actually, in Fayette County Public Schools.
Yes, absolutely,
And-
and, I'm sorry.
No, I'd just add, it's more than just diversity.
Right.
It's having talented educators,
Right.
right, of color, talented educators, period, right, and that care for the children and families that they're serving.
Yes, absolutely, and I want to give a shout out to Rose Santiago. She was very instrumental in identifying applicants, and I'm just going to be honest, a lot of times you want a diverse pool, interview diverse candidates. You have to interview diverse candidates and give them the opportunity to come in and interview. Again, access and opportunity. So we purposely identified diverse candidates to interview. But at the end of the day, we want strong teachers.
Exactly.
So much so that we check their data before we hire them.
Yes.
So if they were in our district or if they were in another district, we were very purposeful and intentional about saying, can we see your quadrant data for math? Can we see any data that you can share with us that demonstrate that that you've grown your students academically at least, a year and a half's time? We did that. We interviewed probably over 200 candidates, throughout the summer. But that was a major piece, just having their data in front of us and seeking that data out to ensure their student growth. That was a big part of us, what we did.
And I want to commend the district because working with these schools for the better part of my career, you're not going to get 200 applicants. Everyone is scaring away from these schools. So the fact that we were able to give incentives and make it attractive, bring people in that are like-minded with the mission of the school and a passion for teaching our most vulnerable population of students, I'd say kudos to the district for that.
And on that note, it's important that we hire a diverse staff. It's also important we keep and maintain a diverse staff. How can you speak to kind of the buy-in on some of these things that are happening at the school? Retention, are we successful in that regard?
Yes, absolutely. The district, first of all, has their own mentoring program for teachers. Now that K-TIP is gone, the district has their own mentoring program. So all of the new hires in the building are in that program and have an assigned mentor in the building who's a more experienced teacher. And so they observe them and give them feedback, meet with them during school and outside of school. We have a new teacher program throughout the year where we have required PD they need to go to and meetings with leadership throughout the year. And so I believe overall we have trained our teachers. I mean, they had more than their 24 hours of PD before we even started school, and we have a lot of job embedded PD during POCs. And on our Wednesday release day, we dismissed at 2:35 on Wednesdays, and then we use those days for PD and also for more lesson planning if we need to.
And your calendar isn't front-loaded, like many districts,
Right.
where they front-load PD in August, and there's no time to really sit, look at data, plan, do, study, act. So we built those days in intentionally where students may be home, but teachers are there, and it's a professional learning experience and day for teachers as well. So everything was intentional. Again, this has never been done, not just in Fayette County, but in Kentucky, right? So I wonder who brought that here. Thank you. We can keep going, partner.
Thanks for all my questions.
Yes. The next slide is specifically about PBIS. 18-19, we were a gold PBIS school. The year before, we were silver, so we were hoping to maintain that. And so with PBIS, we have scheduled a specific behavior reset days throughout the year, and that happens after any break, fall break, Thanksgiving break, winter break. And then we'll take a day to basically reteach all classroom and common area expectations. And we're really, again, with teacher capacity, equipping them to handle and manage their classroom, of course, using PBIS strategy. So we've had help with our school behavior coach, and also D.D. Massey at the district level comes in all the time, the whole team. So it's been a really good experience. We use a SEL curriculum. It's the first 15 minutes of each day in every classroom. We have a PASS program. We're using Minds in Motion in the classroom and in the hallways.
Right.
Restorative justice. And you'll see here, the top left picture is a picture of a quiet, calm hallway. Not every day in a school is quiet and calm, as you all know. And so one day I was out there and I just said, I'm going to capture this moment. This is what we want each and every day. And it's just evidence that the work we're doing, it's making an impact. So kids are in class learning. The next few slides are each of the objectives. I'm not going to read through all of that, but I wanted this up here just to show that we have the turnaround plan objective. And then for each component under there, it is tied to an evidence-based practice, which we discussed before, and to one of the CHETO components, which is characteristics of highly effective teaching and learning. So for each one of those, we wanted to tie what we're doing to that work. So it's anchored in research and evidence-based strategies. Same thing for objective 2, leadership accountability. You have the CHETO components, it's aligned to there. Again, it's all about monitoring system structures and processes in the school.
So before I show this last slide, I believe maybe not the last slide. It's the one for learning culture mindset, but I'd be remiss, I apologize. I do want you to introduce Dr. Elaine Ferris.
Yes, I was wondering when we get to Dr. Ferris now.
Is also the leadership coach, leadership mentor for Principal Jones at William Wells Brown. And let me tell you, she is like none other, right? She is there multiple days a week, all the times, after hours, you know, just helping to get it right and get it turned around, and we appreciate her, so.
Yes, and when she says she'll answer the phone at any time of day, she really does. She really does.
Thank you, Dr. Ferris.
And so
Yes.
this last slide is a picture of some of our kids. You know, William Wells Brown, we lift, learn, and love. Let's lift the community, learn at high levels, and love our students and families. As you all know, it used to be make things happen. This year, we're just getting a little more specific about how we're making those things happen. So these kids in this picture are now 5th graders at our school, and I know Manny talks a lot about the why. I wanted to end with the slide because the students and their success is the why. So.
Indeed. Wow. Questions, board? Or
Mine?
comments? Questions or comments?
Yeah, I had a question for the superintendent. Is this, what is our timeline on this? Because I know we didn't discuss this in the planning meeting. So why is this coming to us tonight for
Yes.
approval?
Great question. So because William Wells Brown, we had 7 CSI schools, the only school that still identified as CSI, the board has to approve the comprehensive school improvement plan. The other 6 I approve, and then the other schools, the SPDM approves. And so as you're considering the comprehensive district improvement plan tonight, considering the comprehensive school improvement plan tonight from William Wells Brown, we should have did the presentation at the planning meeting, but we did not, and so we wanted to bring it before the board tonight. The timeline is in accordance with Kentucky Department of Education when the CDIP and CSIPs have to be approved by the board.
So this needs to be voted on tonight then, or is there an opportunity for the board to have some time to review this before we?
I'm looking at Sherry, I'm looking at, where's Kate? Say it again, Sherry?
She said it needed to be voted on.
Yeah, tonight. Yes.
My question for you too is, you got our attention. What do you need from us? Like, I'm open-ending it right now. What do you need from us? I know, everybody's getting excited. It's Christmas, I'm feeling generous. What do you need from us?
Let me say this. The support we've gotten from our monthly support team has been great. Just as often as they can come out to give that in-time support to the teachers, the more we get of that is great. Again, I want to build up teacher capacity and make sure we have the strongest folks possible teaching our kids. And we've been getting that support. So the more often they can come, the more specific PD we can provide to the teachers, not just blanket PD. I want the teachers to really grow in the areas of their specific need. Not everyone needs guided reading PD. Not everyone needs PD around, high yield strategies. So I really want it tailored specific to their needs. So just helping identify those key people in the district who can help equip my teachers would be great.
In addition,
Go for it.
In addition, we really want to make our enrichment a robust experience for our students. Amanda Stewart here is our MTS, or is our enrichment coordinator. So, if you all can lock arms and find partners who could come in and do yoga with our students and even our teachers at times, sometimes it may be something that the Faith Center offers for students, but we really want, to provide additional enrichments for our kids so that we have a locked-in schedule as well. And not just that, but we want to provide some things for our our teachers as well, in the sense that, like this hasn't been done before, and it's a long day. And, we just want to keep them motivated and encouraged, to be the best that they can be as well. So we'd like to have some type of little center for them as well. And anything that we can do, whether that's people, whether that's human or fiscal resources, to make sure that we can cover the bases of all of our students with the greatest needs. So, and I must say that Superintendent Cock and the board, y'all have done a great job at providing additional support for William Wells Brown. So we do appreciate that greatly. And just give us time, because right now we're just trying to work the work at this particular time. We just really need to work the work.
And what do you, then real quick too, okay, I said what do you need from us, but what do you need from the community? Because I get asked that question a lot, from when I'm out and about, how can I help William Wells Brown, what can I do? And, and to be honest, sometimes people are well-intentioned and this may not be the right place for them as well, but what do you need from the community?
When you say community, do you mean the Lexington community?
I mean Lexington, I mean your neighborhood. This is your open-ended mic moment.
Well, here's what I know about the East End neighborhood. Sometimes it gets a bad rap. People talk about what's going wrong in that neighborhood. So what I want of the entire Lexington community is to recognize that there are wonderful things going on in the East End neighborhood, and there's a rich cultural history. It was a thriving middle and upper class community, and before that, we're sitting on the Kentucky Association racetrack, and so we're sitting on history. We're literally sitting in the middle of that track, and we have wonderful parents and wonderful families who love their kids, who advocate for their kids. I don't like it when people want to talk about my students and my parents, because They love their kids and want what's best for them, and that was evident during the turnaround process with the focus groups. I want everyone to know that we are a treasure in the East End, and our school has really become the hub of the neighborhood. And like I said, the parents can come there and get just about any resource. Our community center is open after school, even after our 21st Century program ends, and they're open until 8:30 and 9 each evening and on the weekends. And so our kids have somewhere to be that's safe and structured, and they're getting additional enrichment and mentoring and other wonderful opportunities there. So I just want the entire Lexington community to know that great things are happening at the East End, inside and outside the school. It's really a great area. Despite what happens, stuff happens everywhere. You know, I live in middle class America. Stuff has happened on my street that I am not proud of, that I wish hadn't happened. You know, but that neighborhood that I'm in, that we're serving every day, it's tight-knit. The parents know each other. Some of them have been there forever. I mean, we have
Multiple
grandparents,
generations.
parents, you know, so it's a really nice, and the area is improving day to day. Businesses are coming in, more income and, you know, economic wealth is coming into the neighborhood, and as the school grows, the neighborhood will grow.
I'm going to add on to that. One, if you ask any educator, as long as I've been in education, what keeps them up at night, right? And they're worried about their children at home and in their neighborhoods, and whether they're being properly cared for, have enough to eat, whether they're safe. So what do we need from our community? One, we need a greater investment in birth to age 5 in this neighborhood. We have students who are coming in and are not prepared for kindergarten, birth to age 5, knowing less than 1 million words, birth to age 5. We need universal preschool, greater investment, right, for them, as well as for families. We need a dual or multi-generational approach, and you're going to hear about that next. We need greater support for out-of-school time for our students in terms of mentoring, big brothers, big sisters, et cetera, not just in school. School's a safe place. Children are spending 85% of their time during their schooling career in their neighborhood. So how are we supporting them in their neighborhood? We need more resources in the community as students are experiencing and going through adverse childhood experiences, trauma, et cetera, right there in their neighborhood, community-based mental health professionals. So, I mean, I could keep going, right? But I'll stop there.
One last question for you on the enrichment piece. To what extent, and tying that into equity, to what extent are we ensuring that every student is having access to these enrichment programs? Do we have a situation where some are being pulled for RTI or intervention
That's
during
a great
enrichment
question.
time? Or
No, actually,
Great
again,
question.
this is core instruction that all students K through 5 get. So there's a block for every grade level for enrichment, and then there's a 6 to 8 week cycle of each one. So over the course of the year, they're going to experience multiple different things. So they may be in coding right now, do drumming the next time, chess the next time. So yeah,
We're gifted and talented services as well.
Yes.
So how are you able to do that? How are we able to do that?
Well, everything's built into the core instructional day.
And through the Promise Academy model, since we've added time
Exactly.
through the day, that is really the purpose of the extension of our day. We go from 7:15 to 4:15, and then of course we have an after-school program, 21st Century Learning Program as well. So everything is built into the core, and so they're not missing any enrichment, because again, that is part of the instructional core.
So unlike previous years, when you had a shortened school day, the same school day you had for a school 3 miles away, where about 70% of those students are ready for kindergarten, students were being pulled or missing these opportunities. So this is a deep commitment to catalyzing equity, to make sure those students are not missing out on what they need, but they still get what they deserve.
You know, I'll just say I commend the team on the work, because just kind of following this journey over the years, and, you know, we've kind of made some efforts, but what you really do see right here is really more of a systemized way of being able to look at data, come up with strategies that we've talked about, proven strategies, high-yield strategies, but at the same time, because I think when we had the situation that happened with William Wells Brown, the neighborhood, the community came together and said, you know, we just want to kind of converge. I mean, and I thought whether that was a really nice thing to do, it just was not a very systematic and very focused effort of engagement. And I think now when you think about, you know, how we've kind of evolved, you know, looking at the plans, having national experts come in, having individuals come in, we talked a little bit. I remember somebody showing me a graph of teachers and looking at a profile of a teacher at William Wells Brown as compared to a teacher, let's say at Veterans Park or one of our other elementary schools. And so when you have that drain of people coming, they leave, and then you start to see and just hear about how you're really working and investing and having the right teacher and being really focused on recruiting the right folks to really help move the objectives, and then, of course, the retention piece. So I think it's a lot has, you know, transpired over the last few years as we've kind of gone through this journey, and it's a model that I think that's going to be sustainable as you kind of move towards the future. And I think the thing about, of course, plan, study, do, and then you'll come back and you'll change and you'll kind of move through and retweak. But, you know, I could tell when I was just kind of stopped by for the coding camp, the excitement with some of those different types of services. When I think it was one of the guys says, you know, some of these kids will sit there and tell you they really can't do math, they struggle with math, but yet they're excited about coding. That critical thinking skills and how it kind of translates into I can do, changing the mindset. I see the students themselves actually supporting each other, you know, and encouraging each other. So I think that culture piece that you talk about, I think you're seeing evidence that what's happening is starting to really work. So, I mean, again, we can provide the resources and some of those types of things, but I think what really happens, the coaching that happens in that building level, really determines that success of the program. So, commending everyone for the hard work and getting us to this particular point.
Same here, Principal Jones. Just, to Board Member Murphy's point, we want to approve this tonight. It's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
So I'm always cautioned when you have checklists as deep as this is, how much are we effectively doing, and how much can we effectively do? So I would hope that somewhere along the way, Faith, that we have a what works mentality and scrap what doesn't work. Mm-hmm. You do have a lot of people coming in the building. You do have a ton of supports. All support is not good, and all programs aren't good. I just hope that I'd have to have a doctorate degree to carry this thing around and carry this checklist on a daily basis. It's a lot. And I know you have a lot of supports, but I would hope that, you know, I'm all in on improving this because we're making progress. We know where we're going. I would hope that we are just being very careful on how we craft this going forward and what we need to keep and what we need to let go.
Yes, no, that's part, the continuous improvement cycle does just that. At points along the way, we'll see.
Because this is a little thicker than the one you had last year.
It is.
Okay, and that's just my point, right?
Yes, it's a lot, but we wanted to really, everything in there is about equipping our teachers.
It is.
To be the best they can be. And it's a lot of work. We all know work at Title I schools, it's hard. I mean, but where that teacher is teaching, that's where the rubber meets the road.
I don't want teachers to get burned out.
Oh, yes,
I see an
absolutely.
incredible opportunity for your school to be a feeder system for the rest of the district on a diversity front. Tremendous potential if we do this correctly. It can feed and it can continue to attract teachers to our district. But we have to be very careful about how we do that and make sure that we're taking care of the teachers as well. So I can understand Board Member Murphy's concern there, but I'm all in on it. I just want to make sure that we're paying attention to that. That's
yes, and to that point, while the students are in enrichment, the classroom teachers aren't leading that enrichment. So that's an additional 45, 50-minute block they have every day where we don't pull them for PLC or planning. They can de-stress. They have basically a respite period. So we knew that going in, that it's a long day, and so we wanted to give them that time to kind of recoup and record. Yeah, and yes.
Oh, can you use the mic?
That's part of our Plan, Do, Study, Act process. We heard feedback from the teachers because they were overwhelmed, they were stressed. And as we were looking at embedding this enrichment piece into our very long day,
one of the things that we got back from that is because they were in PLC every day, getting all this professional development, working with each other to look at the data and really do the work, they needed time to do the things that they needed to do for themselves and in their room and just take that minute to reflect. And so we do not ask the teachers to participate in any of the enrichment pieces. We ask the community members. We've gotten great support on that. We do have some staff members that do enrichment with us because they enjoy that and had a passion that they wanted to share, but that's their time to reflect and just take their own personal respite time.
And it's protected time.
It is protected.
And so the other piece, by having community partners, as you could clearly see, it brings an opportunity for students to see that it's not just the teachers, it's not just the educators, the adults in the building, but the community is invested in their success. And so, more importantly, they see individuals that look like them coming into their school.
Well, we're building a model where we want the neighborhood to own the school. We want the teachers to own the students. You give too many supports, and it's just like running a business. You support something too much, and there's no ownership. The ownership falls back at the district level. We need the teachers to own the classroom. And that's my only point.
How long is the break that the teachers get and
It's a 45, 50-minute block each day.
each day? Is it over a couple different periods or just once a day?
No, it's one whole block.
Okay.
And then when the students are in special area, that's when they have their PLC time. And most of the time we meet each day, but depending on how that team, that grade level is doing, we may not pull them for the PLC time either. So just depends.
All right, thank you, team.
Thank you all.
All right. Next, I'm going to ask our district spokeswoman, Lisa Deffendahl, and Bishop and Chase President, Adrian Wallace, and our Chief Equity Officer, Mr. Darrell Thompson, to come forward, give you an update on our Promised Neighborhood work.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this is a transition slide from all the slides you just got through seeing. It's a single slide, so it won't be long, but it actually, you saw in the presentation from William Wells Brown, them talk about supports from the district office, not specifically, but specifically now, some of those supports came out of the Office of Equity. And so you saw in one of the pictures salsa dancing, but it wasn't just a salsa dancer. What you did see was a teacher in residence who has been assigned to William Wells Brown using a model that actually, as you can see on the slide, circa 2015, the board approved 4 permanent substitute teaching positions to be used to attract minority applicants and candidates to our district. As you all know, in August, I came back to Fayette County Public Schools. In August, I met the teacher in residence who was about to leave the area and relocate back to Texas. And so quick actions being top of mind around this, the opportunity gap, Jennifer Dyer, myself, and Rose Santiago, who you all approved the posting of a position back in probably June, July, filled the associate position for minority recruitment to give intentional focus on this work. So with that being said, we're presenting to you really a reflection of the work that you already approved and sharing the success that that is having instantly. The teacher in residence you saw in the caption actually got a full-time position that will start January as a result of the immersion into William Wells Brown. The work that you saw saw some other works reflected in how he was providing instruction, coaching, co-teaching, interventions, et cetera, to support William Wells in their efforts to transform that school. That being said, that work also benefited him in getting a permanent teaching position as a Spanish teacher, actually. So wanted to bring that to you all and know that we're still using this approach. We did this work circa 2010, and then you finally approved it in 2015. But prior to CSI and TSI schools, we were doing easy peasy. And so we used those positions to support those easy peasy schools with substitutes during the time that we knew we needed to put additional supports in. So I wanted to bring that back to you all today so that you know that we're doing the work, that we're executing the plan, and it's actually having great success. And you'll see in their success by design and not leaving it to chance that we have teachers in our schools that reflect the demographics of some of the students that we serve. And I'll pause before we transition into our next part of the presentation.
Do you have a question?
You can transition, big guy.
You do. It's okay. You can ask.
No, it's not really a question, but I will say I think I may have done a screenshot. I was in Memphis Ray's laughing. I was in Memphis last week, and they have a program called the Memphis Teacher Residency Program. And it was a really interesting strategy because this is a program now, this sits outside of the school system, but it's privately funded where they are actually bringing in and recruiting students to either be summer interns as well as for students who are graduating to get their master's. They pay for your master's. You have a 3-year commitment that you have in a targeted school. So what we would call our red zone schools or CSI schools. But it was a great way to be able to think about recruiting talent, having talent come, you train them, but then they stay with your particular school system. So when we talk about the foundation and thinking about ways in which we can be creative around how we create that pipeline, that talent pipeline for us, I think this is one of the things that we can really take a look at this program and see how we could possibly evolve it over time. That's all.
Yeah, one of the things I did is convert those permanent subs to teachers in residency. So I created that for the simple fact that we had our CSI schools, and I can directly hire and staff those schools. In Fayette County, you have a local school governance model, well, really in Kentucky, so you can't directly staff schools like you can in Memphis. And so prior to the CSI designation, that's why they were permanent subs coming out the superintendent's plan, and we put them in our empowerment zone schools. Since the CSI designation last year, it was an opportunity to create the teacher in residency so that when Rose Santiago, as a minority recruiter, it made sense when she goes to Atlanta or goes to Florida or goes other places, she can give a tentative contract directly to a candidate, where we couldn't do that before, right? You would just say, come back and apply, and you may get an interview, right? So we were able to do that. What we have to be careful and cognizant of is our capacity, because you simply can't place teachers directly in schools. So we want to make sure that as we're teacher in residency, we converted it to 4 positions. We want to continue to see how that works. Obviously, we're getting great talent, diverse talent, that's not only coming in as a teacher in residence, but also then applying and getting permanent positions in our system. And so that's something we'll continue to look at and monitor and grow over time.
And I think our strategy is good and it's working. I think we have to always keep our eyes on what's happening around the nation, because if you're not able to have good recruiting strategies, you're not going to be able to, as much as you may say, I want to try to attract someone, if somebody else is doing something different from a district, they're picking all those great folks off. So when we say we want some really great talent and then great diverse talent on that one, that's just something we have to be cognizant of our approach and our strategies and figure out how do we make sure that we are accomplishing the diversity in terms of our teaching staff.
Excellent. So again, we'll transition into the next slide, brother, which again speaks to the promised neighborhoods and speaks to some of the work that we've been doing, not just during the 7 hours of the school day, but the 17 hours outside the school. You all posed a question to our team members about what did they need, what more could the community do. And so this presentation is going to really give you a snapshot, not a deep dive, of what we've been doing to help pull and galvanize the community around how to help support teaching and learning during those 17 hours of the day.
Thanks, Darryl. So we're going to do a brief history lesson just to take you back to where this all began, to March of 2018, with the establishment of the District Safety Advisory Council. And as you may recall, we had a panel of 28 community members who came together, and one of the things that we did was we put together a panel of students, and we listened to our kids. And our students told us that they don't feel safe at school, they don't feel safe at home, and they don't feel safe in the community. And of course, that was what they were telling us in March of 2018. And so from that work came the District Safety Advisory Council white paper. And as you'll recall, the white paper came out with a set of recommendations for schools and districts, for families and students, for lawmakers, and for the community at large. And the comprehensive 10-point safety plan is Fayette County's response to the recommendations that the council gave us for schools and districts. So with the support of the Chamber of Commerce, with the wonderful support of our community, we put forth the comprehensive 10-point district safety investment plan, and we began that work in the fall of 2018. When the state test scores were released last fall, we learned that 7 of our schools had been designated for comprehensive support and improvement. And as we were going through that data, as we were discussing next steps, we recognized that 6 of those 7 schools served children who live in contiguous neighborhoods. So that 6 of our 7 schools are pulling children from the same part of town. And that led Manny to begin asking, does where our students matter?
Does where our children live
I'm
matter?
sorry, does where our children live matter? And we began having those, the superintendent began having those conversations with different people around town. And one of those conversations was with Dr. Capilouto at the University of Kentucky, and he shared this article with us from the New York Times that was a set of maps that was developed by some researchers at Harvard and Brown who used census data to essentially prove, yes, where our students live matter. We also have local data that proves that, yes, where our students live matter. And so then the question becomes, if you agree with that initial assessment, what are you going to do about it?
So as we answer the question, basically using research, but really if you look around you, all you got to do is use reality. Many of us grew up as real people. Sometimes we forget that we were real people that came from places that look like some of the places our students actually live in now. I'm a product of that same type of neighborhood, so it's not so dismissive and scientific that where children live does matter. And so I could ask each one of you all where you live, and you probably wouldn't tell me it's in William Wells Brown neighborhood. You probably wouldn't tell me it's in Harrison. And so if you look at what we know our children deserve, even as adults, we typically put ourselves in places where we're going to have vibrant, safe, thriving, rich cultural living experiences. And our kids deserve the same. The Annie Casey Foundation has done work in this space for many years, and they understand that poverty has a common thread, even though it does not discriminate. It does create barriers that prevent some of our kids from being successful. And so what you're going to hear throughout this presentation really is a reflection of the work the Casey Foundation has done, as well as the conversation that we started over a year ago with many of our community partners around how can we help improve the 17 hours and the space that our students live in when they leave our schools. And so you'll see here that high poverty and low opportunity neighborhoods, you'll see that African American Indian children are 7 times more likely to have high poverty neighborhoods than white kids. Latino children are nearly 5 times more likely. And so if you look at the demographic breakdown around our schools, many people cannot have courageous conversation when it comes to race. It's a reality. I deal with it on a day-to-day basis. Unfortunately, in my role, I have to push through some of those discomforts. Not that I seek to make anybody uncomfortable, but we have to come to a common place where we're at least comfortable about our discomforts. And so knowing that, the data speaks for itself, that we know we have to address these disparities that were not created when the child was born. They actually created many, many, many years ago at the foundation and construct of our country, and with the institutions that we build around educating our public students. So knowing that, we have to do things lockstep to ensure that we remove those barriers. And so the Casey Foundation, again, has done this research for many, many years that talks about how high poverty neighborhoods create low opportunity. And so you talk about a whole hour presentation there from one of our school leaders and the staff from our district about what is it that we're doing inside the school. But then you ask the question, what does the community need to do? And so what we're doing in this space is now helping to galvanize and leverage the assets around the community partners that could help transform the lives of some of our students. The data, again, speaks for itself around the poverty levels of African Americans and American Indians as it relates to other populations and their likelihood to live in concentrated areas of poverty. Again, I grew up in poverty, so it's not that far removed for me to go back to exactly where Mr. Jones just spoke about growing up and still having some of his family members. You'll hear Superintendent Kalk talk about a dual generational approach. It's one thing if we move one family member out of poverty. We have to move the family member, which is the child, and the parent so that the next generation behind that generation is removed from poverty. I can remember every member of my family living in housing projects. None of us live in housing projects now. In fact, we've graduated 2 Ivy League graduates and another from another school. So we know if we break the cycle, we can continue to impact the rest of our family members. Likewise for every family in the William Wells and Harrison neighborhood. And so here's some data that we know don't start when a child is born or when we open our school doors. And the reality is, if we talk about closing the achievement gap, the reality speaks to itself in the data. So where does the child live doesn't matter. If I took my children out of my household and put them in another household, but I was still in the household with them, it might not matter because I'm still the educated parents of those children. And so think about the households of those parents who aren't educated, who live in high poverty areas, and how that exacerbates, and I will repeat that exacerbates their opportunity to be successful. And so I will let the data speak for itself. I'll let Lisa unpack it a little bit more, talk about how kindergarten readiness, but more importantly, birth to 5, which is the time that we don't have those kids prior to their formal education, and the data, how it speaks to our readiness state.
So this data is from the 2019 Brigance screening, which kindergartners take. Many take before they actually start school. They take in the first couple weeks, and we finish that up after the school year begins. So this year, we have 3,167 kindergartners, and 3,157 of them were included in this data set. As a district, 51.6% of our kindergartners were ready, and that ranges across our district from a low of 12.2% to a high of 80.4%. The data that we've put up here is just really stark, and I think it's something that we should all pause and look at. The Brigance screening is a little mix of everything. They ask kids to stand on one foot, and they ask them to hop, and that gives us some gross and fine motor skills. There's also sections that look at how many letters they know, whether they know their address, whether they can spell their name, whether they can recognize numbers. And that data is used to put together what they call the cognitive and academic data, and that's what we've included here. So across our district, 48.6% of our white students were below average in their cognitive and academic development, and 51.4% were average or above. Our African American students, 75.8% were below average. 24.2% were average or above. Of course, I don't need to read you all of the numbers there. It's important for us to remember that the largest group of children in our community, the largest group of children that we serve, are children who qualify for free and reduced price meals. Right now, we're at 54.7% on paper, but because of the CEP program, which allows us to provide free and reduced lunch, or free lunch to all of the children in the building, we're seeing nationwide that we are undercounting the number of children who would actually qualify for free and reduced lunch, because kids don't have to turn in those applications. They don't have to turn in their forms. So we know that we're probably above 6 out of 10 children who qualify for free and reduced lunch in our district. And of those children, of those kindergartners who entered our school this year, 78.7% of them were below average on cognitive and academic readiness.
Is there a way that we can, I mean, we just talked about the contingent, I can't say that word, the neighborhoods that are all connected. Is there a way that we can map our kindergarten readiness? I'm sure someone's done that, because
Yes.
I think that'd be an important visual, because I have a theory, I know what it looks like.
We're working with our demographer on that, and we hope to have that, that visualization soon.
And I'd just add, as sort of looking ahead for legislative priorities, is that Kentucky, for the last 16, maybe 17 years, I guess, their approach to address the lack of kindergarten readiness across the Commonwealth, one was to raise the age for kindergarten, like sort of the cut point, right? But the other is funding half-day kindergarten. And so I pulled some data to look at the capture in terms of percent of students that are 3- and 4-year-olds that are enrolled in preschool, because I mentioned that as a lever. So in 2018, this is national data, 10% of the 3-year-olds in the Commonwealth were enrolled, 29% of 4-year-olds, and the cost that the state paid in dollars, 2018 dollars, was $4,514. Contrast that with the District of Columbia in 2018. 73% of their 3-year-olds were in preschool. They have universal preschool. 85% of their 4-year-olds were in preschool. Using 2018 data, when you look at those numbers in terms of state spending per child enrolled, 2018 dollars, so the comparison is the same, $17,545. That's an all-day program. So.
Well, and I just using to go back for just a minute, we just talked about William Wells Brown and how that's a neighborhood that we really want to see expansion of preschool, and because the families are telling us they need it as well. And one of the things I think we've seen in the data out of DC is that in addition to kindergarten readiness, what we're seeing is that moms are going back to work. And
yes.
The payroll taxes have increased in the community, and that's because we're removing that barrier of childcare and the cost of that. And I think that's something, when I really look at these neighborhoods and the promise, that's something that really sticks out to me as one reason we need to look at investing in that.
You're correct, absolutely correct, Madam Chair. Absolutely correct.
And speaking of those who are out of work,
so just last week, the first of 4 articles was published in the Courier Journal in Louisville, pointing out that there are over 16,000 disconnected youth in the city of Louisville. Disconnected means these young people between the ages of 16 and 24 are not in school and are unemployed. 16,800 to be exact. That's a $15 billion issue for Louisville. The positive and the con is while we do have 6.9% of our youth that are disconnected, that's a manageable number. Just over 3,500 young people in that space are unemployed or not in school. So we can work to identify those young people to get them plugged in. And as we transition, Durrell will pull up some other things that the NEE Casey Foundation is working towards in that space.
Well, I think just to jump in again, sorry, I'm on a roll with caffeine. I posed the question last week. So I have fostered for 10 years, and I have this crew now that is all between 18 and 24. And I posted on Facebook last week, and I said, is there any resources for this crew? Because in the past week, I've had 2 not be able to pay rent, 2 former foster youth. 1 wreck her car without car insurance, and 1 just break her phone, but that's how she communicates with everything. And I got 0 responses. Because the reason I got 0 responses is there is nothing in our community other than Arbor Youth Services, but they don't provide this kind of support. There is nothing that provides that connected piece, that piece that, like if I can't pay my phone bill or I can't pay my electric bill, I called my parents and called. There's nothing that's providing that, that direction. I mean, even while I'm sitting here, one of my kids just messaged me and said, I need money for a bus. Can you help me tonight? And so I think I just want to echo that out. We don't really have a lot.
Well, and as a former executive director at Arbor Youth Services, I serve on the board there, and we're actually actively working on a transitional program to help folks, once they age out of foster care especially, to get plugged in. And they'll have wraparound services through that program. And so But again, that's what the Promise Neighborhood Initiative is all about.
Well, and with very good intentions, there are laws that go just not far enough. So any child who has been in the foster care system can get free tuition at any university or college in the state.
But you don't get
But
housing.
where are you going to live, and how are you going to get there, and who's going to help you buy books?
Yes, exactly.
So we're talking about basic needs. You've put that star out there for me, but I can't get to it.
Right.
And it's interesting that you all mentioned that. While I spent my time at Kentucky State, I actually launched a pilot to house students who are experiencing housing insecurity and food insecurity. Really, I actually gave them jobs and part-time jobs during the time when kids go home for the break. Where do they go then? So we housed them, we fed them, and we gave them part-time employment. So there's work been done, and again, I could talk a little bit more, but I want to give all the good information out tonight because we're working on a collective impact model that, similar to the family center that's inside the school, creating an empowerment center outside the school that will have services around mental health, education, drug addiction,
Workforce development.
crisis, workforce development, a crisis response team that we're working on so that kids and families don't have to wait until Monday to get the services that we provide during the 7, that they can get those during the time at the point of the crisis. So we're working, again, we're not necessarily leading, but we are collaborating and guiding the group around this work. It will happen. This is not just a conversation, I promise you. We're working, we have an action plan, and the group is actually fully engaged to make this happen in the community. And you'll see, without me reading these slides to you all, that it reflects some of the stuff that we just talked about. One of the surprising things is you'll see in this slide where it talks about keeping families of poverty in their neighborhoods. It talks about improving those neighborhoods, but not displacing them, which we see happening around some of our communities with gentrification, changing the tax structure. So those families who have pride in place for where they live no longer are even able to remain in those communities. This is a different approach where you empower those families to stay there and help them revitalize their communities by having intentional and structured programs. And so, again, we're going to talk a little bit more about what's happening with our stakeholder group and not give all the information out again because this is a process, and we want to make sure that we stick with the integrity of the process.
You may recall that in April, I gave you a presentation at our board meeting about this work. We're wanting to update you on what we've done since then. We spent the summer doing stakeholder meetings with different groups, not limited to, but definitely including the Lexington-Fayette Urban County Government, Commerce Lexington, the YMCA, the Urban League, Neighborhood Association representatives, Lexington Bluegrass Association of Realtors, and the Building Industry Association. It used to be the Home Builders Association. They renamed themselves. Everywhere we went, people were like, yeah, we got to be doing this. Well, this is the work, which is awesome. And so this fall, we held our first collective table convenings. We started with a large group of, well, we'll just show you a picture. Kind of a lot of C-suite individuals, and they all were asked 2 questions at the end. Do you agree with the premise that where our students live matter, where our children live matters? And if you do, who are you going to give us to be a part of this work? And so once they all named people to be a part of the work, we've held several update meetings since then, and we are beginning the work now of community asset mapping. These are the leaders who were part of the collective leadership table meetings. Or I should say the organizations represented.
Change agents, that's what I would call them, because we have to see transformation happening in these neighborhoods. And collectively, this group, they're not necessarily going to be the ones that do the work, but they will be responsible for helping transform the work. And so it's about leveraging assets and resources and bringing those resources to a common understanding for what our expected outcome is, and that is to help these families in those neighborhoods have a better life so that they produce better students when they arrive ready to be educated. And knowing that, we will revitalize our schools by revitalizing our neighborhoods. It goes to tooth in hand. And so we're excited about the work. We know it's tough work. It's going to take a lot of sleepless nights, because everybody does not like the redistribution of wealth and or power. And that when we revitalize communities, that's what you're doing. You're actually giving people an opportunity to stand on their own 2 feet and survive against the struggles of this world.
So they passed it on to me, and I am a preacher, so if you'll hang with me for about another hour, we'll get you out of here. No.
Jokes, he makes jokes.
I can't help it. So this is asset-based community development work. We've heard tonight about the great work that you're doing internally with the Promise Academies, but this is focused on the neighborhood. Darryl talks a lot about the 7 and 17s. Our babies are only inside the schools for 7 hours, and so the other 17 hours are crucial. And I want to point out on this map with the 6 and 7, when we add Booker T into the contiguous neighborhoods, the 7th or the 8th school that was outside of the contiguous neighborhoods is Mill Creek. And as many of us know, through the Housing Authority's efforts, Bluegrass Aspendale and Charlotte Court was torn down. People were actually moved and displaced. And so many of those people live in that neighborhood in housing projects owned by the Housing Authority on the south end of town. And so it's still the exact same issues that we're facing. And so again, this is about community development. It's asset-based community development. Going into the community and finding out what are the resources that exist, what are our assets, not coming in with the problems mindset, but saying there are talented people, as the principal said, in the East End and throughout these neighborhoods and these communities. There's a lot of great work being done by nonprofit organizations and by our city government. You'll have in your packet some information from the city about our comp plan. They have, as one of their main tenets and goals and objectives, creating jobs and prosperity in these communities. And so we have a great collective table, and these are the 4 areas that we decided that we want to focus on first, and they can evolve. But education, economic security, health, and family and community. And I always say that health and family and community really go underneath the other 2 in many ways, and they can vice versa, but education and economics are inextricably intertwined. And we see that far too often. These areas of concentrated poverty, our kids are trapped, as the New York Times piece put it. And so this Opportunity Atlas identifies those communities. We can just bring it home to Lexington. Those kids who live in the 40508 zip code are less likely to succeed as the children that live in the 40502. And so what can we do? Because we believe that every child deserves a neighborhood of promise. So our strategies are around those 4 areas. And to begin this work, we want to look at what other communities are doing. And so we don't have to go far than to just go down the road to Louisville. In 2014, under President Obama's administration, he started a project called My Brother's Keeper. And he released funds that Louisville accepted the challenge to be able to garner support from 11 philanthropic organizations across the nation. And they created the Office of Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods underneath Mayor Fisher's office that has really been able to leverage a lot of resources and assets to do some great work around opportunity zones, which we'll talk a little bit about, both with public safety and public health. This is one article that we wanted to just share that just came out in the last few weeks. It was an opinion piece from Gil Holland. He is a community developer there in Louisville, and he talked about what Louisville should do with their $4 million surplus. And one of the strategies that he brought up was ETI's, economically targeted investment funds. And so this is just an idea or one example of what we can do to leverage opportunity zones that are current, as well as any surpluses that we have, what our partner organizations can do, or what we can also do to attract private investment in our communities. The YMCA in West Louisville is another great example. There's a great article on that in the Courier Journal, as well as, again, about the Office of Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods, the grants that they've been able to bring in to really target these issues that we're talking about. Promised Neighborhoods, again, is about transforming neighborhoods of concentrated poverty into neighborhoods of opportunity. We realize that in America, 8.5 million children live in neighborhoods of concentrated poverty, and it costs the United States over $500 billion annually. There is an economic case to be made for this, and that's the reason why the Chamber of Commerce is on board, and they understand this, that we can bring in private investment because it's going to lower costs. I serve on the Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative Steering Committee for Fayette County, and where it costs over $100 a night to lock a child up in the secure detention, it costs 1% of that to keep them in alternatives. And so what we have got to do is begin to work as a collaborative, collective table to address these issues and to truly transform our cities. I'll end with this quote from Alexander von Hoffman. He's a senior fellow of community development at Harvard. And he says, though it's a slow and gradual process, more trial and error than tried and true, the leaders of community development understand intuitively that the work of transforming neighborhoods goes step by step, house by house, and block by block. This will not be an overnight fix. But this is, as Superintendent Kalk said, a dual generational approach that we focus on our babies, but we also help and support their families, that we leverage things like the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act to bring in jobs and get people into higher paying jobs. These are the things that will transform Lexington. And so I thank the school board for everything that you do and for your support for this project.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, thank you, team.
Don't bring a fake mic and just drop it.
There you go. You can do that. Great job, team. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to ask our Chief Operating Officer, Myron Thompson, to come forward and present the monthly construction progress report.
Thank you. There's a snapshot of our STEAM and Success Academy project with our partners, and you'll see we're scheduled to open October of next year. Looking forward to opening the facility, a rendering of the facade. For the month of November, we've continued building the site demolition as required for new work. We began our flowable fill and anchor bolts in the new foundations. We've had structural steel begin and is 95% complete in Area B. Our metal stud wall framing and door frame installation began in Area B, and our geothermal drilling, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing underslab rough ends and HVAC ductwork have continued. This month, the building and site demolition is to continue as required for new work. All of the new foundations will be complete. The structural steel work will be complete in Area B and begin in Areas A and C. Our metal stud wall framing to be nearly complete in Area B and will begin in Areas A and C. Door frame installation will continue as well. Our geothermal drilling, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, underslab rough ends, and HVAC ductwork will continue also. A few photos. Door frame installation, foundations in the multipurpose space there, geothermal, and metal framing. Our Bronze Station High School football field house, another snapshot of the partners and the budget. A little over 50% complete there, and again scheduled to open, revised completion date of February of 27th of 2020. Last month, we completed our exterior concrete block walls. We installed roof trusses and began our roof sheathing, completed damp proofing on 75% of the exterior walls. We set door frames and installed all of our interior walls. This month, we've completed our exterior damp proofing. We've completed our roof sheathing. We began our exterior brick installation and our plumbing rough ends. A few photos of that project. Our secure vestibule projects, there are our design team and our construction partner. And again, that work will be continuing all of 2020 and hopefully be wrapping up this time next year at 28 locations, or we'll have 28 locations complete by this time next year. In terms of a general overview, our Bronze Station project is almost there, 98% complete. Our construction has started at Booker T, 90+%, Crawford, 90+%, Northern, a little over 50%, and the Professional Learning Center at Spur Road just started about 25%. We've had pre-construction meetings held, and construction has started at Winburn, also the Learning Center and Dixie Elementary. Our pre-construction meetings scheduled for January are Lafayette and Scapa. And we don't have anything quite done yet, but we're real close on a few of them.
All right.
So, Bryan Station, just glass installation, final inspections to occur last week. Booker T, the new reception area for the metal frames and doors has been installed. Our reception area gypsum board is installed and painted, and the reception area casework is in. And the final inspection is to take place this week for that one. Crawford Middle, metal frames are installed and created secure entry vestibule. We've revised the reception area there. We have a new gypsum board partitions in place and revised the door frame locations that are installed. And that inspection will take place next week. Northern demo is nearly complete. We've had hollow metal frames that are installed, and our new ceilings and floors are installed. Painting is in progress. Final inspection the week of the 27th. So they'll be working while we're out. But looking forward to getting that one done. Demo happening at the Professional Learning Center with our masonry walls ready for new lintel installations, and new hollow metal frame at the vestibule will be installed, and a few pictures of these projects. And we're thankful to our community for allowing us to be able to do these security projects. So work is taking place. That's Crawford, Northern, and the Learning Center.
No change orders, man?
Not yet. Would.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask you to stay up front. And our team, I think our 10-point conference safety investment plan will share that.
Absolutely. Dave, get us loaded.
Give an update to our community.
Certainly. The first 5 items I will cover here for our 10-point safety plan. Our middle and high school ID badges have been implemented. The visitor manager system Raptor has been implemented at Frederick Douglass and Carter G. Woodson. Our other high schools will be implementing this project as well. Again, it does instant background screenings for people that are signing into our facilities. The Crisis Go platform has been implemented at 38 schools with ongoing training district-wide. Every principal in the district has been trained in this platform. All of our exterior doors now have door alarms placed. I was in Walmart over the weekend, and any big box store you go to, they have these security features. We now have these as well in all of our exterior doors. Door access points for badging in have been installed at all of our facilities now. Security cameras are now at all of our facilities. This time last year we did not have that, but we do have those now in place. All of our infrastructure in terms of DVR camera recorders have been updated and completed. I just covered the secure vestibule project, but we include this in the presentation for the public that may want to go out and see what's taking place, so I won't rehash this with you, but basically that has been completed, and we are working on that, and our metal detectors are in place at all of the high schools with Henry Clay to coincide with the secure vestibule project for next year.
Good evening. So we are stationary at 60 officers. We have 2 that are in the academy, and their class coordinator was able to call today to just say their performance is above and beyond. They've been put in leadership roles. They're both graduates of Fayette County Public Schools, so we're certainly excited about that and their performance. We are filling the 5 remaining slots, so applicants are testing. We have a couple sworn police officers already that are going through the process, so we anticipate being at the 65 officer mark, whether it be all in uniform or headed to the academy by the spring. So this weekend we had an opportunity to participate in a community event at Meyer on Reynolds Road. Shop with a Cop, it's something that we do annually, and this year had a record number of students or children that participated, well over 400. They raised the amount this year to $175, so we got to really have some fun shopping. And so we lined up and were assigned different families, and then got to go through. This gentleman on the right got a nice toy and also some shoes in this process, so he was excited about that. The family on the left, her husband is deployed with the military, and she is here with 2 first graders that are in our schools, so I had a good time walking around with them. Of course, as you see, the children are engaged and having a good time, but it's a good time to talk with the parents and the guardians and kind of hear their stories about where they're at, and then kind of helps us too to know like we can better support our families and our communities as to what their struggles are. So we enjoyed that. We had several that got to participate, and something we look forward to every year. Questions?
evening.
Good evening.
All right, so by January 6th, 2020, we will have 50 district mental health specialists for our district.
Yes, yes.
It is pretty amazing. And we, as you can see in the ongoing, have been heavily recruiting these district mental health specialists to match the needs of our population and our students and staff. So we're very excited about the folks that we have in place. On January 6th and 7th, we will be providing a 2-day orientation for the 7 new ones that are coming on board. So we're excited about that. Tricia Crow is our district SEL coordinator, social emotional learning. She is in the process of scheduling training for all the teachers and the district mental health specialists who will then take that training back to their teachers. So that's in the process as well.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We wanted to give you a little bit more than we've been able to share in recent months. So with me this evening are Bhavani Modi Hai, the Chief Operating Officer of Health First Bluegrass, and Debbie Bowen, our Health and Wellness Coordinator. I've kind of struggled in the past to explain what we were hoping for with the comprehensive adolescent assessment and health promotion. Did I introduce you wrong? You're smiling. Did I do something? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Just happy to be here.
And, you know, essentially what we heard during the District Safety Advisory Council process was that when you have a school-based health center, our kids get the benefit of all of this. They get the medical care, the mental and behavioral health care, the dental care, health education and promotion, substance abuse case management, and nutrition education. And so, of course, that is what we're hoping to be able to provide in all of our schools.
Hit it, Dave.
Dave?
He's good.
Oh, okay.
Thank you guys for
Oh,
letting us.
wait, I was- Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I get excited.
Dave, I had 2 more slides before they...
Oh, we should have rehearsed this.
Sorry. Okay, so we've pulled together this work group and we've been exploring all of these possible models. And the Health First Bluegrass model is possible at schools that serve high percentages of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. So those are the ones that you see on your left. On the right, we have would be more of a hybrid model with full-time nurses from the health department and then the mental health services being provided through the University of Kentucky. And those show you our potentially eligible schools there. And here is our current status. And with LTMS opening in 2020, that's why we have Bhavani here, because she's got exciting news and an awesome PowerPoint.
There we go, there we go. Welcome, welcome.
Okay, Dave.
Okay. Thank you guys for letting us be here and to talk to you a little bit about Health First Bluegrass. Oh, let me learn this quicker. We're a federally qualified health center. If you don't know much about us, we're here in Lexington. We offer an integrated health model at multiple sites here in Lexington and then through specialty programs. Our specialty programs are the health care for homeless, and then what really is pertinent to you all right now is our school-based health care model. And listening to everything that we've been talking about, it's just exciting for me to be able to talk about what we're doing, because inside of those models in your schools, we really are working with the teams inside the schools to address a lot of the social determinants of health. In our main sites, we're using behavioral health consultants and community health workers along with our community resources. But inside of our schools, we've always said that our model in the schools has been kind of our first integrated approach to healthcare. Because we're there, we're planted inside of the school working with our FRCs, working with our teachers, working with our guidance teams. And that's it's a very unique type of care that we're able to offer because we're inside the homes, the school homes of our kids and our communities. So we really become integrated into the school and the community. We couldn't do that if we weren't inside of the schools. So our model that we currently have 8 school-based clinics in Fayette County in your elementary schools. And the staffing that we have inside of them is we have full-time clerks or HCAs, which interpret for us. They're bilingual Spanish speakers. We have full-time registered nurses who dual as both the clinic nurse, so they're doing triaging of medical visits that are coming through, taking care of some of the basic first aid, but they're also wearing the hat of the school health nurse. So they're fulfilling that role. We have full-time nurse practitioners, either family or pediatric nurse practitioners, seeing the students inside the school and also family members within the community. Each school has a behavioral health therapist, full-time, offering therapy, traditional therapy services for our kids in the schools. We have a rotation of a psychiatrist or a psychiatric nurse practitioner who are coming through once a week through the schools, and then we have dentists and dental hygienists, both rotating inside of the school clinic, offering preventative care, exams, and cleanings. And then we're really excited about this. In the last 2 years, we've been able to pull our dental mobile bus unit out to our schools that have school-based clinics as well, and they're offering, partnering and offering the restorative work. So extractions, fillings, all of that is happening inside of the school clinics. And then you can see the services that we offer. We offer a full array of pediatric services. So it really is a unique setting where we get to plot a whole pediatric medical clinic inside of the school. And we know that being inside of the school, we're reducing barriers to care, and we're increasing that access, which is some of the core tenets of what federally qualified health centers do. Because our kids are right there, our families are right there, and I worked inside of William Wells Brown for about 10 years as the nurse practitioner there. And the care that you got to do, I love what we do in all of our main sites as well. Inside of that school, when you've got your parents and guardians and your kids coming to you, because it's a welcoming, safe place. That's where they know, that we're the people they know and see every day. It's a different level of care that we're able to offer. We couldn't do that without the support of the district to get in there. So we've been wanting to do this. We see our kids filter through our elementary schools for a long time, and we've been working with this team as well, is what do we do once they leave us and they go to the middle and the high schools? We'd really like to be able to follow them and give them that same care that they're getting as they come through our elementary school clinics. So we're very excited to be able to do this at Lexington Traditional Magnet. We're going to be at LTMS. We're on plans. The plans are ready for us to open up and offer all those services that you saw on the previous slide starting January 21st. So they are up and running. These are photos of the construction.
Yes.
We're excited.
Yes.
We are super excited to do this. I can't tell you how excited we are to get in there. Our families, it is a feeder school for William Wells Brown and Harrison, and the families that we serve at both of those schools, that feedback that we get for them is, man, we really wish that we could be able to just call you guys and have these kids seen at LTMS or where they go next. So we're so excited. They are always welcome. They come out to our other schools, but we know that it's harder for our families to be able to take off work to get them seen if they're having an ear infection or a sore throat or something else. So now they'll be right there. We're accessible again. Preliminary photos of what's going to be our registration area. We were there today, so it looks very different. It's pretty much finished up in the front, so we're excited about that. And then just some pieces of the back. We've got our exam rooms going in the back, and we're getting our triage spaces, and then our behavioral health rooms will be on the opposite side. It's been great to work with LTMS team, their guidance teams, and their principal have been great to work with as well. So we're excited to get in there and really start providing services for our families.
Fantastic. And I also want to thank you for the partnership. And, you know, when there's a vision, there's a will, there's a way. And to come along and at this point in time for us to be, to have the capacity, and then you have the capacity as well to grow it and understand what our children's needs are and understand what we're doing with our Promise academies and to build that model up into the middle school. It's just, it's fantastic. So thank you.
Well, we've been meeting, we've had 2 monthly meetings with UK Health First and the Health Department. So we're starting to dovetail our services together and coordinate. They help us support dental services in our non-clinic schools. UK will take over the mental health piece, and eventually we will build a medical community that will wrap its arms around our students. So I'm excited.
There you go. Thank you. Thanks, partner.
And just to give you the current status, UK is currently, they have their proposal, they're actively with their legal team, we're getting lots of questions, we're going back and forth, so we hope to be able to bring them to a future board meeting to present as well. our social media monitoring. The renewal for this contract with Social Sentinel is on the board's action agenda this evening, but just to give you a little year's snapshot, in the past year, they have looked at, their services have looked at 251,374 public posts that were somehow connected back to our schools. That's roughly 700 a day. They also looked at 30,407 images in the past year, which is roughly 70 a day. And they've recently branched out to Instagram, so we expect that number to skyrocket soon. And we have received in the past year 358 alerts. And of course, you know that we have a team that includes several of our law enforcement officers, Sharika, Rainey, and myself, and we all look at these posts and kind of triage through them and say, you know, oh, they were just talking about UK basketball when they said he can't shoot from the outside, or this is a student who is escalating in the cry for help, and we need to get in there and do something. And so in the past year, we were able to help a student who was a former Fayette County student who had moved on and gone to college and needed mental health support. To this day, the members of our team do not know who the student was, but the college that they are attending knows who they are and got them the help that they needed. We had another student who was exhibiting some antisocial behavior. We were able to get that student some wraparound services, get them connected to the school. They're actively involved in clubs and have a mentor and are having a much more positive experience. And we've also seen several posts come through that could have turned into one of those social media scares that, you know, this time last year, we had dozens of them. And we've been able to reach out right away. And, you know, the posts, we're aware of the posts and they never reach the point where they're becoming a rumor. So that's on your agenda tonight. And this is Darryl.
Again, as a part of the 10-point safety plan, we publish safety guides, and we're looking to republish these again as we move through the cycle of funding availability. Since some of the other projects have already sunset, now we are able to allocate those dollars to help support education and training, and that was by design that we would work our way through the funding structure. Wanted to bring you all up to speed to our next FAMU, which will be March 21st. We started our first FAMU December 2016 at BCTC, where we had a very, very diverse group of families, and we learned from that event things that we need to do going forward. You'll see PBIS for families, restorative practices, social emotional learning, bullying prevention are the hot topics. We do surveys at the end of each FAMU. We had one November 9th at Henry Clay and took that feedback, and the family said we wanted to have more education and training on the areas that you see focused there. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Also, you'll see Linking Youth to Nurturing Community forum we held on November 19th at the YMCA in West, I guess you would call it, shopping place out there. I don't go shopping out there, but where's that, Tanya? But we held a huge event of community-based partners who deal with mental health. And these were not individuals that work inside our schools typically. They deal with our students when they're at home. And we pulled together about 200 partners to talk about warning signs, protocols, share common definitions, and then look to the future best and next practices so that we can help support families in their neighborhoods. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention as well around the training we're doing to support our families in this space.
Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, team. And at this time, I turn the meeting back over to you, Madam Chair.
All right, this is the portion of our meeting Well, as you all know, we have 2 opportunities for public comment in our meetings. Members of the public may address the board during the period set aside by the board without submitting an item for the agenda. No action shall be taken during this portion of the meeting on issues raised by employees or the public unless deemed an emergency by the board. Please note, speakers will not be allowed to make any disparaging or critical remarks about individuals or employees of the district. Critical comments or complaints are processed through the district's complaint procedures, which afford the individuals to whom comments or complaints are directed the opportunity for response in due process. There are 2 opportunities for the public to address the board. At the beginning of the meeting, the public who have signed up prior to the meeting is invited to speak on items that are on the agenda. This is not intended to be a time for debate. However, the board will take the public's input in consideration when making their final decision in the evening. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. At the end of the meeting, members of the public who have signed up prior to the meeting are invited to address the board on any topic of district-related concern that is not on the official agenda for this meeting, policy 1.45. Please know that since these items are not on tonight's agenda, our board may or may not comment. It is important to know that this is not intended to be a time where issues will be debated. The chair will determine the amount of time for each speaker depending upon the lateness of the hour and the number of speakers. And we do not have any speakers signed up to speak at any of these opportunities this evening. So at this time, I will move on to approval of routine matters. If I don't have an objection, I'm going to offer up a motion to approve the minutes of the November 11th, 2019 planning meeting, along with minutes of the November 11th, 2019 special meeting, along with minutes of the November 24th, 2019 regular meeting.
I'll move to approve those minutes.
I have a motion by Mrs. Morris,
Second.
a second by Mr. Murphy. Is there any further questions or discussion or changes or? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. At this time, I will ask for approval of the consent items.
Madam Chair, may I make a parliamentary inquiry? My understanding of the procedure is it only requires 1 member to remove an item from the consent agenda. Is that correct, or did it require a vote of the board?
I'm going to have our, Mr. Chatfield, do you have a?
I'm going to have to look into that. I don't know. I've never been asked that question before. I don't know. This is a first impression. The safest thing is to vote on it, but I couldn't tell you right now off the top of my head. I need to go look at that.
Okay. Because my understanding of Robert's rules is that if it's a consent item, that implies unanimous consent. So if 1 member asks for it to be pulled and treated separately as an action item, then that's the only requirement. But I could be mistaken, but that's my understanding. And I think we may have done that before, if I recall.
Let me go to my office. Can we come back to that?
We can move forward with action items and then come back to the consent agenda.
I think that's the ideal, and I think that we'll wait and see what we hear from her, but I appreciate that. So let's move on at this time to the approval of the action items, and then we'll come back to the consent items, if everyone. All right, so the first item up for approval tonight is a motion is in order to approve the 2019-2020 William Wells Brown CSIP and turnaround plans, the CSIP. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the William Wells Brown CSIP and turnaround plan, 2019-2020.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Daniels.
I'll second that motion.
A second by Mrs. Morris. Is there any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. At this time, a motion is in order to approve the 2019 through 21 CDIP.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Murphy,
Second.
second by Mr. Daniels. Any further question or discussions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. At this time, a motion is in order to approve the ACT District Testing Program Description of Services, Kentucky Early Spring 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve the ACT District Testing Program.
A motion is made by Mrs. Morris,
Second. Second.
A second by Mr. Murphy. Do I have any further questions or discussions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. At this time, a motion is ordered to approve the collaborative for teaching and learning.
I make a motion to approve the collaborative teaching and learning.
A motion by Mr. Daniels,
Second.
a second by Mr. Love. Any further question or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. At this time, a motion is in order to approve a contract with Freedom Tours for Leestown Middle School.
Madam Chair. Go ahead.
I make the motion to approve the contract for Freedom Tours for LMS.
All right.
Second.
So motion by Mr. Murphy, a second by Mr. Love. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. The next action item this evening is to approve a lease contract for our, for the copier lease.
I make a motion that we approve the lease contract with Rico Copier.
A motion by Mr. Love,
Second.
a second by Mr. Daniels. Any further discussion? Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. The motion is in order to accept the, oh, we can't do that yet. We have to have the monthly treasurer's report. Oh, but we have,
I looked it up. Mr. Murphy is correct, but one board member can request that something be pulled, and then when it comes to a vote, you can take it up immediately at that time or take it up later during the action items. When it comes to a vote, that's when it's actually voted on. So he is correct. He could, any board member can request that something be pulled from the consent.
I concur. I just put it up. I Googled it.
I saw him Googling too.
I appreciate that.
Thank goodness for Google, right?
But I was to be official from you.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
And I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, I apologize. I didn't know they were off. That hadn't been asked before, but
Yeah,
yes.
Thank you.
And it makes sense when you think about it, because then you're going to vote on it anyway, so.
Thank you.
So point of clarification, at this point, we should just move it to the end of these action items, and then we'll go back to the rest of the consent
You
items.
can do that, or you can take it up immediately, according to the rules, so whichever you want to do.
Well, since we're 7:10, are you okay with that, Mr. Murphy, if we just add it to the end of here?
That's fine with me. It's fine with everyone else. yeah.
Since we're on number
Again,
7.
I apologize, I didn't have that on my finger.
Oh, you're
No,
fine.
thank you for doing that. All right, a motion is in order, well, you can't dig in. Monthly treasurer's report. Sorry. Come on down. I was just on a roll.
The general fund review for the month of November 2019 reflects as follows. Revenue is approximately $320 million, expenses $144 million, fund balance $176 million as indicated by the blue arrow. Comparison year to year, you can see that the fund balance is not exactly the same, approximately the same, $176 million, but comparing 2020 to 2019. A summary of all funds shows revenue of approximately $453 million, total expenditures $198 million, net fund balance approximately $255 million. This reflects all funds, Fund 1 through Fund 7,000, and it shows the same $255 million. Revenue analysis, including beginning balance, reflect $320 million in revenue, $292 million compared to last year, $28 million difference. Excluding beginning balance, or taking into account beginning balance, excuse me, $249 million this year, $240 million last year. Expenses during the same time frame, $144 million this year versus $116 million last year. This is primarily due to $7 million in salaries and fringes that were up, and also $7 million related to vendor payments. The biggest jump is $14 million related to the transfer of the funds related to construction projects and safety projects. The balance sheet summary reflects $185 million in assets, $9 million in liabilities. Thus, our financial position remains sound for assets versus liability. Marcy Thomas Fund, $233,784. Dorothy Smith, $19,342. And John Price, $40,121. All other funds transferred and reconciled and sent to Bluegrass Community Foundation as received. Are there any questions or concerns?
Any questions?
All right, thank you, team.
So at this time, a motion is in order to accept the monthly treasurer's report of revenue expense reports as presented to the board.
I'll make a motion to accept the monthly financial reports.
Motion by Mrs. Morris,
Second.
a second by Mr. Love. Is there any further question or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. This time, a motion is in order to approve a contract with K-12 Insight for survey research services.
Page 152.
Thank you. I realized that afterwards.
I know it's a lot.
Oh, I had it
And
marked.
the board may recall that K-12 has been a partner. They do our annual surveys for families. So if you have children in the school, you completed this survey. Also do a great job at providing analysis so that our school leaders can quickly turn around the feedback or the analysis from that data and share it with their SPDMs and share it with their families. They also do our student survey, where we survey our high school students, as well as other surveys that we use as part of our qualitative data to drive change in our district.
I would say the only thing, I didn't see a contract in here, Manny, and that's why it
Hold on.
stood out to me. I didn't see a contract in here, and that's why it stood out to me. I just missed it. If it's in here, is it in the book that's on?
152.
Actual-
That's the
Actual
executive.
contract.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
There's no,
Their contract.
Yeah. I didn't see a contract in the book, so just a heads up on that.
No, then that's our error.
Hard to vote on if we don't see a
Yeah,
contract.
agreed. That's our error. So what we'll do, if it's not there, we'll pull it and bring it forward in January at the planning meeting if it pleases the board. All right, we'll do that then.
all right.
Apologize.
So there is
Oh,
no.
it's in there?
What page is it on? I'm sorry.
Okay.
What page?
If you look at page 153, oh no, that's social sentinel.
That's social set.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not there.
So
I've looked
it's
at
our
it.
error. We'll pull it and bring it forward at the planning meeting in
So
January.
with no one approving the motion or seconding the motion is defeated and will come back at a later date. A motion is in order to approve a contract with Social Sentinel Incorporated for social media monitoring services.
I move to approve the contract with Social Sentinel.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Murphy, a second by Mr. Daniels. Is there any further questions or discussions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Now, I think I'm jumping correct, but my tabs go from 9 to 11. So is the next motion a motion is order to award RFP 7619 lobbying services to Babbage co-founder, or is there one in between that I'm missing?
It says 10 on
That's
approval.
the
Yeah.
one we have.
Okay, which page is 10? That page.
Oh, is this the inside?
It should be
No,
the
that's
Northwest
inside.
Evaluation Association.
171 is where it starts.
Oh, so, okay, it's just labeled wrong, never mind. So that is the motion order to reward RFP 7619 lobbying services to Babbage co-founder.
Yeah, make a motion to approve the award RFP 7619 lobbying services to Babbage co-founder.
I'll second that.
So motion by Mr. Daniels, second by Mrs. Morris. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, and at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve RFP 6319 audit services. On page 24.
I'm sorry, just give us
Oh,
one second,
yeah.
okay? Just hold on. Lisa, give her a second. I think we may have found the contract for Insight. Just want to double check this.
Okay.
No, that's part of the order for Social Sentinel.
Okay.
It all went to legal, I don't.
We'll just roll it to,
We'll roll to
That's fine.
January.
Just want to be sure.
Just
Okay.
no-
Now you can move forward.
All right.
Thank you, Board Member.
I wanted to do it and then, because we've already had staff, so I was going to go ahead and put the motion and then we can have discussion. Because we've already had the staff give the rationale at the last meeting. So I'm jumping on to the motion, then we can entertain it as discussion.
Okay.
So a motion is in order for RFP 59-18, no, yeah, no. Wait, which page is this on, Mr. Murphy? Sorry.
24.
Sorry. I was giving you medical services. Woo! I moved my tab and I was all confused. All right. A motion is in order for RFP 63.19 audit services to award.
but okay.
I can,
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'd like to hear the reasoning, Board Member Murphy, before we set a motion. If you don't mind, I wasn't here at the last meeting, Board Member Murphy. I'd like to catch up a little bit. I'm
Okay.
behind. I apologize.
Yes, I know if the chair would allow,
that's fine. I just usually, point of order, we do staff comment here and then we do that in the next piece. So that's why I did it this way, but I'm cool. Go
Okay.
for it.
No, and it relates actually to the point that was raised about Insight. I had made the request at the planning meeting just to see the RFPs from the top two firms that came out of our audit committee, and I haven't seen those. And I was told that wouldn't be possible to see them at this stage. But my understanding is, from talking to folks on other school boards, and just some of the standard operating procedure, is that typically once the bidding process is complete, and under Kentucky model procurement, those RFPs should be accessible and available. So same reason why we delayed the Insight contract. I would just like to see the contracts side by side before I'm comfortable casting a vote, because this is a 5-year commitment with a firm that we've been using for 14 years to conduct our auditing services. And considering, the audit strikes at the heart of one of our most important responsibilities, which is the financial management of this district, I just want to make sure that I have all the information to do my due diligence and make an informed decision.
It was stated at the last meeting that over 600 inquiries were made regarding this RFP. It came down to 3 final, and one of those candidates did not have sufficient experience in this area, I believe. And so it came down to these 2 individuals. And the audit committee made the recommendation for this one company. And so that is kind of the history there. Do you have some additional questions, Mr. Daniels? Or?
No, question would just be, historically, we've just looked at the scores, right?
To my
As
knowledge,
far
yes.
as far as the RFP award,
Scored by the audit committee.
scored by the audit committee.
Correct.
Has there ever been a statement provided by the audit committee? My question to Board Member Murphy is it as simple as they have scored it and they can come up with a simple statement of why they selected who they selected? Can it be that simplified? Rather than seeing the whole process and the RFP individually by each company, a simple statement by the audit committee around why they chose the company that they chose, other than just the score.
Well, you just want like just a written draft?
I'm just asking. This has come up 2 years in a row. We need to move on and be able to have a system in place where all board members feel comfortable with who the audit committee recommends going forward. I'm just trying to see if we can create a system going forward.
Well, we have a system. I guess we're being asked to change the system now.
Not change it. I'm just saying, Board Member Murphy is asking for additional information. Is that something that we cannot supply while we have counsel here, or can the audit committee just make a simple statement? we know what the statement is. The statement is we use this company because we feel like they not only scored on the RFP, but they have the expertise in this.
And the knowledge,
In the
yes.
knowledge.
And there are certain.
I'm just asking, can a simple statement similar to that can come out of the audit committee just as?
I suppose we could. I'll defer to legal counsel.
Yes,
as
they
the
can
reason why we
certainly do
couldn't.
that. I will caution the board that, you get dangerously close into engaging in the activities of the day-to-day management of the schools in this district when you start delving into these things too much, And I think that's certainly appropriate, but I think the reason that the board originally decided to put board members on the committees was so they did have representation, and so that if a board member had a concern, he could go to the representative.
Well, maybe the statement comes from the board member that's on that committee.
Yeah, and
We
could do that.
no, I hear what you're saying, Board Member Daniels.
To me, it's just a statement
I think
coming
it's
out
a
of that
good-
committee.
No, and I
that
think they
simplifies this
definitely can
process.
do that. I don't see any problem with that whatsoever. I'm just saying, that's.
Board
the
member
whole-
Love said he was in those meetings and he reviewed these and
I
he
did
is.
not go through, no, the 6 members, that was not me for that
Is
one,
that's
okay?
also a
That's
policy.
by
Because one of the
design.
things that we don't do is we don't sit on the RFP,
Right.
because it's gonna come
But
to us.
Because
when
that-
they come back to you, you're in the room. When they come back.
Create problems, yes.
Right.
And that is more of the management of the district, which falls within the employees that report to the superintendent. That's why, but they certainly sit on the committee that here's the recommendation and,
He's in the room when it's recommended.
right.
So he can come to our meeting and says, this is the company we decided to go with, and this is the recommendation of the audit committee.
And by the same token, if you had a concern, you could go to him as the member on that
That
committee.
is my whole point, that we can
Okay.
clean this up
Well,
in
I mean,
one meeting, and he's sitting over there, we're sitting over here, and it'll be done.
So we want to follow that process going forward.
I'm just asking.
I mean, and the same thing has been like with the budget. I mean, typically, for example, I remember when John Price was sitting in that chair, John would basically say, typically, we've had a meeting prior to our board meeting, we've talked about it, we kind of bring it forward. And I would just say with the audit committee, again, we as a board established it to have, much like the calendaring committee, have an external group that could sit there and evaluate, make recommendations to us that would basically take out some of the, if you want to be partial around certain things, it took it out because we did have a group of external folks kind of bringing it to us. When you look at the scores here of the 3 firms, I can understand if we wanted to question if it was really close. It's not even close that we start talking about it from that perspective. So if that's something that we need to do kind of going forward, making a statement like that, that's fine, or at least saying here are some of the overall criteria that they looked into from selecting this.
We're just trying to be as transparent as we can.
No, I understand.
As often as we can be. And I think if, the harder we try to do that, the more successful we'll be.
I think we could bring a verbal statement to be read by the board representative on the audit committee as well as documented in this document.
We can do that in all the committees if we have to.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, and I'm not discounting the work of the audit committee, certainly. What I just want to understand, because again, and we've talked about this before, we have the Kentucky Council on School District Audits. We had a previous procedure of this district that encouraged or said we would do firm rotation. So I want to know, as a board member, in a side-by-side comparison, is using the same firm for 2 decades, is the benefit we get from that worth the cost of not doing this rotation, which many different sources say is best practice? So having that side-by-side comparison would help us make that informed decision, because the audit committee has done their work of sending out the RFPs, evaluating these, and coming up with 2 highest scoring firms. And then for me as a board member, the question for all of us actually that we would have to ask is, okay, there are some recommendations that audit firm rotation is best practice. Here we have a contract that sets us up to use the same firm for 20 years. Is the difference and the distinction between these 2 offers significant enough to warrant that decision?
I'll say the experience brought forth by the firm that won the bid is significantly different than the second best, which is what you're asking us to consider. They bring a level of expertise of K-12, large public K-12 school districts that no other firm has yet to bring to the table. I'm perfectly willing and would consider, and I'm sure the audit committee would consider, another proposal from another qualified firm that was equal to or greater than the firm that won. So far, we haven't seen that. And to ask me or any of my staff or the audit committee or anybody else to consider choosing a firm that's second best for the district is not in the best practice or not in the best interest of the district.
I will say, the financial workings of a school district so dramatically different from a lot of corporations, the private sector, just the same way legal is. You know, that there are niche firms that do that. It's not widespread, and frankly, we probably don't pay well enough to get, a lot of people interested, because we don't pay what a lot of private corporations would pay. So, so it is a very, it's a very specific, people are, they kind of go into that, or they focus on that. So you're not going to find the volume that you would if you were in private, in the corporation. You're just not. So they probably don't get as many as you would expect if you're a Valvoline or,
Well, let me just raise another point, because this has come up. If, for example, you as a board said, I want to adopt this rotation of firms, if a firm comes in and they bid, and they go through the bidding process, and they're like the lowest bidder, they come out scoring, you can't exclude because of the procurement law,
And
right?
we've talked about that. The model procurement code does not allow us to.
So there's no way that we could legally do it if we wanted to.
That's right. For us to ignore any proposal that's brought forth is illegal.
Well, there's a difference from excluding from the bidding process and then excluding in the selection process.
Correct, and we can't do either.
And for services, we don't have to take the lowest bidder. That's my understanding of our policies. If
We
it's a
take the
service,
best.
yes. And the legal opinion that we received in the spring or the winter, or whenever it was that we went through that, said ultimately it's the board's purview to make the decision. We take the recommendation from the audit committee. And to board member Daniel's point, having more information to make an informed decision about that recommendation would put me in a much more comfortable position to fulfill my responsibilities. And that's where I'm coming from in this discussion. Because right now, all I have is an executive summary of essentially $99,000 over 5 years. I mean, that's a $500,000 commitment that we're making as a district. And the only thing I have to look at right now is an executive summary.
At this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to approve and award RFP 6319 for audit services.
Madam Chair, I move that we award the contract to Straubman and Company.
I second that motion. At this time, is there any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nay. 3 ayes, 2 nays, motion passes.
All right, thank you, team.
And at this time, we'll go back to the consent agenda items. So a motion is in order to approve the consent items.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Love,
Second.
second by Mr. Murphy. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. At this time, again, we do not have any public comment. Oh, wait, no, we have some informational items. I'm going to turn this over to you for a second.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask Lisa to come forward and Bob Babs, co-founder, to come forward. We're going to begin a discussion of setting the legislative priorities for our district for 2020, and this is a exciting time.
Good evening. We will be brief because we are the only thing standing between you and Monday Night Football. Go Saints. Dave, oh, you got it up? Great. At your tables, you all have this document. It is includes the legislative priorities from all of our K advocacy groups so that you can familiarize yourself with what our not colleagues, what's the word? Allies. Thank you, are going to be asking for as well.
Well, good evening, everybody. We are delighted to be here and to share with you your positions of the last several years, as well as the positions and priorities of our very good friends in these 4 organizations. We actually have other priorities as well, and we can go as deeply into this as you would like. Our goal is to make sure that we accurately and enthusiastically and passionately reflect the consensus of your goals. And that's what the whole purpose of advocacy should be. You have worksheets that I'm sure you're familiar with by now. A couple of you have completed those. 3 of you will be marked down a grade each day they're late.
The teacher turned his in on time, just so you know.
Yes, he did. Yes, I give a
The
clap.
teacher
Thank
was
you.
the very first one.
Thank you.
Good job.
I flagged it. So it's good.
So once we have those, it will be our collective work to put together for you a recommendation of your priorities for 2020. As you can see, there are some consistencies across the top lines of this slide. Funding, 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 and funding. This day began about dark this morning when the legislative conference met here in town for a review. A number of legislators were here for that. Legislative committees met in Frankfurt today. Then there was an event for one group of legislators. And the entire time, it's never necessary for us to bring up money. It comes up. That's the whole point. It's a budget year, and everything that falls under these priorities depends on funding and what matters most to the legislature, the new administration, and to all of us collectively speaking together and working together. So that's the point. If you have any thoughts about what your colleagues at KEA, KSBA, KDE, or KASS are thinking, or any place we might delve into that, we would be delighted to. I want to thank Lisa for her tireless work and support. It's extraordinary. Thank my colleague Rebecca for her work on policy issues constantly, gauging the feedback, listening to your presentations here, and listening to the presentations of many others. You know, today in a committee that deals with licensing and occupations, every kind of subject comes up. It's amazing. It was a packed room. Beer came up. Massage therapy came up. Vaping was a lead topic, and your colleague from Louisville, a superintendent, said to give you his best regards for tonight, and he was the prime witness to say, here's the problem. And the action you've taken and others have taken, very consistent together. But that is something we can rally around, I would think, across the board for these organizations and many other people. As difficult as the session is and as much angst as there is over the session, call us irrationally exuberant or just irrationally optimistic, there is a mood to get something of consequence done. It's a historic time that we have a governor and a supermajority House and Senate of another party. We've never been through quite those dynamics before. Today in Lexington at midday, Leader Thayer and Minority Leader of the Senate, McGarvey, kind of have this roadshow they do together. It's pretty darn funny. Thayer has 30 or 40 one-liners. McGarvey has a few snappy comebacks. They're good friends. They've worked on some key legislation together, and they're emblematic of some of the partnerships that are ongoing and formed. Also on the so-called ERPO, or red flag law, you have, again, McGarvey, Julie Rocky Adams, Senator Hornback working together against the odds and against some pretty formidable opposition, but with a tremendous amount of undercurrent support. So those are the things we're looking to blend, to get the matches together to make some good things happen. I'd be glad to be silent and listen to any comments or thoughts you would want to share and leave us with as we undertake to get this completed for you just as quickly as possible. Your past priorities are up on this slide. You have hard copies as well.
I have a comment that's not on here, but when I was going door to door, one of the biggest things that came up, and I went door to door in the highest density voting areas, which tend to be more privileged areas. It concerned me that how many parents were really struggling with dyslexia and how that was currently being treated. And through that process, I learned that there is a bill out there that I think would benefit our students. And I know that even though the parents talking to me about it were able to pay for the screening and the help that they needed, that population is not diagnosed in other areas. So to my knowledge, that is a bipartisan bill. I believe it's with Regina Huff. And so it's something that I would suggest that we look into.
Duly noted. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Other pre-filed legislation that we thought were particularly relevant, just that you might be curious to see. It's just a sampling, but as always, we're consistently tracking every day to see anything that might affect you, whether it's education specific or it falls into another arena but still has impact for your students, for your faculty, for your staff, for retirees, whatever it may be.
And a lot of those go back to the funding issue, because I've heard the talk on the bus cameras, and it's, you know, it's a great idea to catch people who pass the stop signs of buses, but then at the same time, is that going to be another unfunded mandate on school districts? So,
Who's sponsoring the FAFSA bill? Do you know? The bill, FAFSA? Yeah. Okay. Just curious. Okay.
I think I speak, in Fayette County, we have made this a priority that we fund kindergarten. And I know the legislators are starting to buy into this early childhood education. But what really surprised me last year was how many of the legislators don't realize they don't fund full-day kindergarten. So I think for us, as we've talked a lot about universal preschool and expansion of preschool and stuff, a big thing for us is, again, to continue advocating for that funding of kindergarten. And then, therefore, we'd also like to, do that early childhood piece as well. But I know when we look across our state and we look across that disparity, that's something that I feel like, even in Fayette County, we lead the charge on, because the rest of the state desperately needs full-day kindergarten, and we can be the leaders and the advocates for that and make that aware. So I feel confident that that's something we want to continue to advocate for. And again, it's about a $6 million investment, I think, that we make in Fayette County. So even if we could not have to do that and fund elsewhere. Another thing that I think is interesting, and we've not really talked a lot about in this group, is this idea that in Kentucky, and you all can kind of maybe explain this a little bit more, prisons are funded, we have to fund our prisoners. Like, we take on that they are in our care so much of the day, and if we get more prisoners than we thought we budgeted for, we have to go ahead and pay for that. But that's not the truth in education. Like, if more students show up, or if some changes, we don't fund that. And I know when I've gone to KSBA and KDE, and that's something that's come up a lot this year, is that if we could make a change to funding, we should fund education the same way we fund our prisons, and that our children deserve that. And that if we really look at the studies and we see how to cut down that prison rate later, it's funding education and fully funding education. And our babies are with us the majority of the day, and I will advocate that. I think we are responsible for them. So I know for me personally, and I know that money is an issue, and money is, but if we are going to look at how to change, I think we should at least look at, we're not gonna stick it to these districts at the end of the year. We're gonna say, we're gonna fund it. At least we're gonna fund the number of children that are actually in our school systems. So, I don't know, does anybody else have any ideas or thoughts on this? And we'll continue, we'll take our surveys, and we'll meet back, and we'll, I assume, get together. Also, I know we had a really great kickoff with legislators last year. They enjoyed our culinary students.
Yes. So the goal is to be able to finalize this at our next planning meeting?
In early January.
Because we
Right
got to
after,
get started, okay.
and then we can meet with legislators as well.
Sounds good.
So yes. All right.
If you have any other thoughts, feel free to email them, and I'll make sure they get to Bob, and we'll pull together a legislative program that you'll be proud of.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you, board members. We have several informational items for the board's review this evening, including the school activity fund report, personnel changes for December, the budget transfer report, and position control document. If there are no questions about any of those items, that will conclude the board agenda for this evening, and we do not have a need to go into closed session.
That's good news.
That's great.
All right, so again, there is no oral communications this evening from the public, and there is no motion for board requests. I'm going through it now. All legit. Any other business of the board? At this time, I'll entertain a motion making the agenda part of the official board minutes.
I move to make the agenda part of the official board minutes.
Motion by Mr. Murphy.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Morris. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Murphy, a second by Mr. Daniels. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned.